Law.com.
Yes! Oh, I like it!
It's up to you now! It's up to you!
I like it!
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton on this hump day, Wednesday, June 3rd. Thanks so much for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming foxsportsfm.com, broadcasting live once again on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels. They're free. Sign up for them.
Morning.
How are you this morning?
You know what? Not going to lie. I'm a little hungover.
Really?
Well, the wife is starting a 5-day vacation.
Huh.
And originally we had planned, way back when, when life was, pre-coronavirus.
Okay.
A friend of mine had rented a home in the Keys, and we were going to pick my daughter up today at 2 o'clock at the end of the day.
Last day of school.
And we were on our way to Marathon for 5 days.
Okay.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
All right.
Because, they had rented the house. Friends of ours had rented the house from the middle of May. They like to fish. There's a lot of tournaments down there, and they were all set up for the Mahi tournament season down there, and we were going to fish in a tournament with them. So that all went kaput.
Right.
So she didn't, but smartly, my wife never went back to work and said, I'll work these days.
Ah.
She kept those days off.
So the wife is off.
Yes, until Monday.
Okay.
So I taught her how to play gin during the coronavirus. And last night she says, I want to play cards. So we sat and played cards, had a couple of bottles of wine. Usually when the second bottle finishes, I grab my bottle of Woodford Reserve and have a couple of whiskeys neat and go to bed. And that's what I did. So, I got a little, I'm there, I'm here, I'm ready.
Gotcha. You do look a bit disheveled, I have to admit. The hair is, for you, straggly. You're growing the beard. You don't have any gray that's visible until you grow a beard. And so now you're looking, this is as Grizzly Adams, to date myself, as you get right here.
No, I know. And the hair's long enough where I can comb it all the way back. And it looks terrible because that hairline's getting high. I'm going bald, and I don't care.
Okay.
That's it.
All
I figured out, what's better than a shower in the morning, by the way? The pool.
It's very underrated.
Every morning now, turn the alarm off, beeline to the pool with a towel.
Do you just walk in or do you dive in?
I go off the steps and kind of half dive, if you will.
Gotcha.
I can't really call it a dive because it's not. It's more of a half belly flop into the pool.
It's more kind of, we're going to let gravity take over here.
Yeah, and
we're going to start it.
It feels great. You're right. It is highly underrated.
It is.
Because the shower, you're expecting a certain temperature, and the shower hits you, and it's always a little cold, or you got to turn it on and walk in. Odd going on there. The pool is instant. Bam, you're awake.
Yep. And it jolts you.
Right. It feels great. Might do it between commercial breaks today. Who knows?
479-5551. That's the magic number, 479-5551 on the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line to chime in to the show. Well, a big day for me yesterday.
I know. How are you doing, all in all? We're hump day. You're back at it. For those that don't know, David underwent surgery, had to have a kidney removed, had a cancer scare. We think everything's great, but I have been very impressed that we're even doing a show this week. I know how much you wanted to, and I told you a long time ago, I'm in whenever you're in. And
well, I needed it emotionally. I did. It was a rough 2 weeks.
No blank.
I'm being lighthearted on the air and all that, but it's the most pain I've ever been in my life. This is the roughest thing I've ever physically gone through in my life. And I didn't need another week of recovery with no joy, quite frankly. I mean, nothing that made me laugh, nothing that made me smile. And the show does that. And so selfishly, whether you were ready or not, whether the audience cared or not, I was like, I'd really like to start June 1st. I know the doctor and the wife, and, they'd really prefer June 8th, but, you live in my shoes for a week. It's a long week right now. It's 3 hours a day. Can you give me a little something here? I mean, we got 168 hours in a week. I'm going to be on the air for 15. I mean, come on, look at me a little something here. So that's why I was pushing for June 1st. And you said, hey, I'm letting you drive this bus. If you're ready, I'm ready. And if you need another week, then I'll take another week.
And that's why, Pat lightheartedly said, I'll come and do more. And I was pretty damn adamant. And I couldn't have been more overwhelmed by, Seth Everett, Lee Sterling, Pat Kerwin. And we didn't even start asking people to do shows. All jumped up and said, what do you need? You want to go on the air? I'll co-host. Don't pay me a dime. I'm in. Love to do it. And
of course, when they said don't pay me a dime, well, I mean, there are kind of co-hosts.
Well, absolutely, because we don't have a dime.
No.
I mean,
no. I mean, we're not making a dime, so why should they?
We don't know if we will. I mean, June could be a freebie. Right. We're not sure yet. We're waiting that out.
Yep.
And the essence of David Moulton is coming back on June 1st. Because the way that we have our arrangement with the company that we work for, I cannot guarantee that we will make any money in the month of June. And when I say that, I ain't joking. And in David's, God bless him. I mean, I really thought when this went on, I had a long talk with my wife. I said, are we going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks? Do I need to go claim unemployment? And David said, no. I'll have the surgery on Thursday. We'll be back on the air on Tuesday.
Right. You rolled your eyes and texted my wife and said, he's nuts, right? And so, yeah, that was a little ambitious, even for me. All right, that was a little ambitious. I needed those handful of days at home. But you asked, how am I doing? Monday was exciting but hard. The one thing that I have struggled with, not to get too personal here, but sleep.
Not to get too personal. You sent a text out and said, hey, everybody, I'm not on the air today. I've got cancer. How much more personal can you get?
Well, I just couldn't stand one more. Hey, did you guys get fired again text? All right, I'm going to shut you up. All right, here's how we do that. All right. But in all seriousness, sleep has been the most difficult thing to, quote unquote, return to normal. And it's anything but right now. And it's largely because it's just been tough to get comfortable. I mean, I've got this suitcase, these barbells, whatever it is, tire, whatever it is you want to call it, right smack dab in the middle of my, chest, a midsection, if you will. And while there's no pain, I would say there's a little discomfort that comes with it. And so sleep has been hard to get, and it's been hard to get in more than 2 to 3 hour intervals also. So I did not sleep much at all before the show Monday. And by the last 30, 40 minutes of the show, also, I was, I had some pain. And so the last part of the Monday was hard. And physically, my body, I mean, like I was sweating a lot for those that were watching on Twitch or YouTube.
Right, and you don't.
No.
I do.
No.
That
Yes.
would have been me. I was watching you with a towel going, look at Moulton channeling his inner Miller.
Yeah, I was toweling down. I was like Tarkanian in a close second half. That's what I was doing on Monday. Yesterday, I felt significantly better. Slept a little bit better, and which always helps, and just physically felt stronger. And no pain or discomfort during the show. Like Monday, for example, within a half hour of the show ending, I was asleep and slept for nearly 2 hours. Yesterday, didn't take a nap at all. So, physically, I think I'm doing better. I'm doing better every day, which is what you would expect. But yesterday was a big day because went to the local doc. I've got a few docs now.
Yeah, you have a team, David. You have what is known as a team of physicians at this point. My mother has gone through this. You have a team.
Right. I'm hoping within about a week or two to be down to just my local doc. I mean, if all the test results continue to stay positive, the surgeon will be done with me and there'll be no need to see the cancer people for a little while. But right now, you're right, Mark. I'm seeing a team.
Yep.
All right. I'm one of those athletes. I feel like an athlete with an entourage. That's how many people are in my life right now.
Yes, sir.
But I went to my doc, who I've been going to for 20 years. I haven't seen another doc since the wife and I moved to Southwest Florida in late 99. And so they weigh you. I mean,
that's one of the first things they do. Yeah.
Right.
That's how it goes.
And believe it or not, I had not been weighed throughout all this. Now, apparently there's a way with the hospital bed in which they can figure out your weight. Just laying on the bed, they could tell you you're blank. Well, that was kind of midway through the process, and they threw a figure out there, and I went, well, that's interesting. I've lost a few pounds if that's the case. But this is a combination effect, Mark, of I had started walking before,
we believe that's what caused all this exercise.
Well, there's no doubt about it.
I'm a firm believer, David. You were a lazy blankety blank for many a year. And I blame myself. I started walking. I said, hey, why don't you walk a little bit? And then you did, and look what happened.
I blame my daughter. My daughter came up with this plan in 50 days to walk at least 100 miles. And I was perfectly healthy before that idea. And, now look at me. So I walked for about 8 weeks. She'll love that. All right. They actually listen after the fact to this show. So she'll love that. So for about 8 weeks, I was walking and probably walked, 130, 150 miles during that time. I was walking 2.5, 3 plus miles a day.
An hour walk is every bit of 3 miles.
Right.
I mean, that's
even at my pace.
No,
right?
It is. I mean,
so I dropped 8 to 10 pounds, I'd say. Nothing crazy. Just noticeable. Things
belt notch.
Well, yeah, I've been pretty close to a belt notch, and not only that, the shirt that kind of was, kind of nestling up on top of the belly was now able to get over the belly and just kind of lay a little bit.
To touch a pant.
That's how the shirts should look. There you go. You got yourself.
Hey, look at that. Hey, shirt, pants. Shirt. Why don't you introduce yourself to one another? You're touching again.
Look, you guys can touch. Yes. So that's where I was. I'd lost 8 to 10 pounds before all this, happened. Well, Mark, they weighed me yesterday, and I had a figure in my head.
Oh, I know. You were hoping for the second number to be a 5.
Correct.
That was the number you said. We all know the first number is a 2.
Correct.
You were hoping the second number was a 5.
Right. Turns out the second number's a 4, and it's nearly a 3. And I looked at the nurse, and my wife, mouth agape, and she starts figuring out, and we walk into the doctor's room, and we have a moment alone, and she goes, you might be as skinny as you've ever been in Southwest Florida. This is similar to what you weighed when we moved here from Fargo.
Well, you did lose a bunch of weight, a couple of years ago? You went at it pretty hard, pretty healthy, and dropped a bunch of pounds, but not to this level.
No.
I told you when we talked Sunday night, I could see it in your face that there was a different guy that I was talking to.
So in 16 days, I lost 40 pounds. So you throw the 8 to 10 on top of it leading up to it. And there are people who have not seen me, most everyone, who, we normally come in contact with one another, who we have not because of the coronavirus and what have you. And so I'm down 50 pounds from when most people that I used to run into last saw me. And I'm down even Well, and even you. I mean, we had the one show where we had a technical issue, had to get in the car, run to your place. I don't know if that was late April, early May, whenever it was. But, I mean, maybe I had dropped 5 pounds walking by then. So from the last time you saw me, which is 5 weeks ago, I mean, I'm 45 pounds thinner than the last time you saw me.
It's amazing.
And you were in Southwest Florida a year or so before I was. So if you think about it, all right, I mean, the next time our paths cross, because the first time we met one another was at a Blades game. You were working for the organization. I was the local sports guy. And so, hey, how you doing? That sort of deal. And so, you have a visual of what somebody looks like. And it'll be interesting to me as to whether or not you will look at me and go, I don't think I've ever seen you thinner.
I'm telling you, I look at you every morning in this, and I haven't. I can guarantee you I haven't. And
so that was eye-opening. I will say it was comforting in this sense, because I've been a little tired, a little more tired than I thought I would be. I've been weaker than I thought I would be. And because I've never been weak. I mean, at any point in my life, whether I've had illness or injury or what have you, I've never been weak before. And I'm a little weak right now. And at least now I'm like, well, hell, I'm losing 2.5 pounds a day. All right. I mean, at least I feel like I have a legitimate reason.
Of all of the times through this, David, you and I know you talked to John more and you probably talked to other people more. I purposely tried not to bother you.
You did.
I send a text here and there. How you doing?
Hey.
And when you answer, I respond. Otherwise, I left you the hell alone because, quite frankly, I think you wanted to be left the hell alone. And your wife was also texting me to update me of your progress and saying, hey, David's having a tough day. Leave him alone. Okay, that's all I need to know. I'm pretty easy. I talk to you enough. I mean, over the past 15 years, you and I have had enough conversations where I can let 2 weeks go.
Yeah, I think we're good.
But I joked last night with my wife when I heard the weight loss. And I said to her, and she actually remembered. Now I can't remember the guy from Survivor, but that's all I could think of. But Sunday night.
Richard Hatch?
Richard, yeah. Oh. She goes, I said, he looks like Richard. And she laughed. But Sunday night, when we tested the equipment, you said, hey, I want to test the equipment. I thought it was a great idea. We hadn't done a show.
Right.
And I went to bed scared to death. Because David, you were tired. You were weak.
It was about 6:30 at night. And so, I'm fading fast.
I didn't know how your days were going. Now I've got a better picture of what a day in the life of David Moulton is. And right now, by the time dinner time comes, you're pretty much spent. And particularly on Sunday when we talked, you were spent. And I just sat and looked at you and said, are you sure you want to do this? And I
said, oh, yeah.
I was like, dear God, how are we going to do 3 hours? This guy can barely talk right now.
Come on.
No,
We're talking.
I got you. But Sunday, you didn't even really want to talk that much, and your voice was weak. And Monday, by the time we got to the 8 o'clock hour, you were a little weaker. You were sore. It was noticeable to me. And yesterday, you were great. So, I mean, I think everybody is enjoying watching you get better. This is unusual for everybody, including myself, to watch you make these steps in front of everyone. It's a pretty strong statement. Well,
Mark, there was a moment yesterday in which I nearly got emotional because I'm, in my mid-50s. And Mark, I have had to purchase new clothes because I'm getting fatter. I can't remember the last time that I had to purchase new clothes because I was getting skinnier. And literally, I was thinking back to maybe when I just became a teenager and I ran cross country and track in junior high school for a couple years to get in shape, and I dropped about 20 pounds. I mean, Mark, honestly, I started laughing My wife's looking at me and she goes, "You're going to have to buy new clothes." And I go, "I know. And I've never had to do it this way."
You know, we all, David,
I need a moment.
We all can sympathize with this, David, because in my closet right now, I have a stack of clothes in which I refer to as the fat clothes. I don't throw them away. But when I hit a certain point of having to buy shorts that were bigger than the shorts that I like to wear,
right?
Because you were so fat that the 36s didn't fit anymore and you had to grab a couple of fat shorts.
Right.
I have all those stacked up in the back corner of my closet.
Well, and now this brings about, and how many people driving around are getting ready in the morning, how many of you have the shirts and or pants or shorts that are in your closet in which you keep looking at them and you have refused to give them away? All right. The significant person in your life is like, you haven't worn these in 10 years and you go, "I'm going to fit into them one day." And you have refused to give them away. Now, of course, I have given everything from the waist down, I've given away. But there are shirts that I have hung on to because I like them. And I'm like, I will fit into those again. You know why, Mark? Because they're L's. L's.
Do you think you're not? Hey, listen, 242. You're not an L yet.
I'm not an L.
Hey, listen, cancer survivor. You're not an L.
But Mark, I can see L from here. All right. And the closest I've ever gotten to an L in the last 20 plus years was that shirt in the lower right-hand corner of my closet. All right. That's it. Just looking at it, not fitting into it, just looking at it. You know, that gift, somebody bought it for you and you're like, they guessed wrong. They guessed small. That's so cute.
David, I am an L and you, sir, are not an L.
I am not an L, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Put it this way. I'm closer to an L than a 2X. And
wow.
Yes,
how's that feel?
Shocked, dazed, and confused. This is an area code. This is a shopping district. You thought all those years I was uncomfortable going to Collier County. All right. I mean, now if this continues, because I'm going to drop even more weight.
Yeah, you don't have much of a choice.
I mean,
I know you're chef.
Well, but not just the whole chef thing and the diet, but just the rehab from the surgery. I mean, I still have swelling and what have you. You know, I'll drop 5 to 7 pounds just by healing. So that'll put me in the mid 230s. Oh, my goodness.
David, I want to say that the Twitch chat room.
Oh, I can only imagine.
No. It's a little light this morning. We've had great crowds early. I think they're over us by Wednesday. It's a little smaller, but Johnny Mac did chime in and said, "Wow, I didn't realize a kidney weighed that much."
Exactly. And the funny thing is, on paper, it's 3 to 6 ounces.
And that was the only question. This is all going on. My wife, the veterinarian, as everything is going on, information's coming, emotions are all over the place. And finally, my wife says to me, "Can you ask David to find out how much that kidney's going to weigh? I'm really curious."
Well, there's 2 answers. A, 3 to 6 ounces. Or B, 40 pounds.
Miller and Moulton. 3 kidneys and still coming through. On Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, where we stream at foxsportsfm.com. And you are looking at all 3 kidneys live on twitch.tv.
We are fighting for your communities.
I'm the guy that fights injustice.
We're giving you a voice.
It's Fox.
We're letting you know that we have your back.
So, Michael Mira, my buddy that does the radio show, and he's, was based out of D.C. for years. He posted something on Facebook yesterday about what happened in front of the White House when they decided to shoot rubber bullets at innocent people.
Right.
And another one of my friends, of course, attacked it, and I went after him and embarrassed him without having to let anybody know we were friends. And so I sent Mike a text of my outrage. Problem was, his name is Mike O'Meara.
Right. You said you sent it to Malloy.
God dang.
Funny.
But do they recycle the oil?
That's funny.
I had to send one to David Grant yesterday because he's trying to fight the fight online, and I said, I appreciate you, brother, but that is it's not. I don't know if it's even worth it right now. I have disassociated myself with a lot of fringe social media friends in the last 2 days.
We could just throw them out like most companies do. But
Cooling supports a smart, with what I have going on, to be honest, I've just been a little selfish.
Nick Rollers texted me personally. You know Nick. You wouldn't know him by name, David. He is the Mets.
Yeah.
Spent a bunch of money with us when he was with, yesterday one of the doctors at work here told me when you hit your mid-50s, that's when your check engine light comes on. I told him to just put a piece of black tape over mine and ignore it.
There you go. Yep.
Everything from starting at $2.99 on up with
How about Foot Fan 1, the Three Kidney Show?
You also have other Cortex products as well.
We also carry the Cortex Stone product. Looks like tile, looks like stone, but it's Cortex, so you get the softness, quietness, and the easy installation to go with it. We also have Cortex Wood. Look of wood, real wood, but with a more stable core for Southwest Florida's humidity.
Oh, that was good. That was fun.
Four Meisters, you really owe it to yourself to visit the store. 6281 Naples Boulevard, right next to Costco, or go online, fourmeisters.com. That's fourmeisters.com.
Listen to the Dan Patrick Show at work.
Never boring, that's for sure.
Streaming 24/7 at foxsportsfm.com.
Woo!
Galliana Kia in Fort Myers is open, and we're here to help. Over 400 vehicles in stock. New 2020 Kia Forte LXS lease. 0 down. $149 per month. That's right. A new Kia for $149 per month with 0 down. Plus at Galliana Kia in Fort Myers, you can drive payment-free for 4 months, interest-free for up to 75 months, and worry-free for 100,000 miles. Plus prepaid gas for up to a year. Our parts service and body shop are open to serve you. New Kias, 0 down, $149 per month at Galliana Kia. 100 miles south of
I text, I relate, full closet. Wear 2 shorts and 1 short pants.
Yep.
How you feeling this morning? Not good? A little sore?
Well, believe it or not, I'm having some lower back stuff, which has kind of come out of nowhere. But I think was all that time in the hospital bed, and angled, and still having trouble getting comfortable home, spending a lot of time in a recliner.
I really want you to do the show in a recliner. I will buy one for that spot right there, because I think there would be nothing better than you doing the show in a Lazy Boy. I think Lazy Boy donate one at this point.
License number CCC 1326954.
I will say, I know John's been a little active on Twitter lately, but I thought he had one great line yesterday. He was talking about Bruno Air, in which he said, what I'm going to miss most is the radio show.
Well,
that was a pretty good line.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, I retweeted that and said, wasn't he really good friends with the people we used to work for?
Yeah, I saw that.
True. All right, we're best friends, he and the heavier heir to the company.
Now back to Miller and Moulton. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Bottom of the hour, 6:30. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Streaming this and every show on the station at foxsportsfm.com. Broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels. They are free. Sign up for them. You not only get to see the show, but there is bonus content that we provide on YouTube and on Twitch TV that you can't get anywhere else. Plus, Twitch is interactive during the show and during the break. So sign up, the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels.
Well, David, yesterday we had a poll question about baseball. This is the baseball hour, after all.
Right.
If the MLB does not play in 2020, will you come back as a fan in 2021? And all I will say from our results is we are very sympathetic and empathetic towards the situation in the world, at least based on our listeners, because There is no way in a normal year, if we had this poll question, in my opinion, that 48% of the people listening would say they were coming back, particularly when 27% said they left a long time ago. I mean, the three choices were yes, no, and I left a long time ago. Well, 27% said they left a long time ago. Of what was remaining, of the remaining 73%, almost 40 or 48 plus percent said they're coming back. And I don't think that's the case if we're not in a pandemic, David.
So 48, 27, and 25 then.
Yeah.
With the poll results. But 1 out of 4 are saying they wouldn't come back, right?
Yes. And that's where you were.
Yeah. And a few people on Twitter challenged me and said, come on, you root for the front of the jersey. And I do. I do. But this would be insulting, quite frankly. I look at it as, I don't think I ask a whole lot of you. And this is David Moulton, the sports fan, talking to Major League Baseball. I don't think I ask a whole lot of you. But playing, and then playing during the summer of 2020, when I could use you. I got to be honest. I'm going to have a little extra time on my hand. I'm going to be sitting around. I could use the nightly ball games. And in fact, I'm jonesing here. I'm looking at hockey. I'm looking at basketball. It's like, hey, is there any way you could move this up? I mean, can we move this along? I mean, I'm thrilled with NASCAR and the PJ Tour's back in a week, but hey, come on, you give me some stick and ball sports here. And so I'm looking at baseball going, hey, you actually have a chance to get your season started before hockey and basketball resume here. What the are you doing? So, yeah, I'll hold it against them. And Mark, as we've discussed on this show, I can hold a grudge.
Oh, people.
I'm good at it.
You have no idea.
I'm good at it.
It is one of my missions in life is to stay out of the grudge zone of one David Moulton because you can't get out of that zone.
I enjoy it, and I'm good at it.
With that being said, it's time now for
the starting five. 5 big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton starting 5.
Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
NBA Board of Governors going to vote tomorrow. This is what it's looking like, Mark. 22 teams would come back. 22 teams. The season would resume on July 31st. Boy, that seems a long time from now. Game 7 of the NBA Finals could be as late as Monday, October 12th. How about that little situation ABC, ESPN could have? ABC could have Game 7 of the Finals on their channel. ESPN could have Monday Night Football, which I believe is Chargers at Saints. So there you have it. 22 teams is what they think will pass. July 31st, the season would start, or resume, I should say. Game 7 of the Finals could go till mid-October. They will vote. The NBA Board of Governors will tomorrow, and it is looking like the season is going to take place at Disney in Orlando. That looks to be done. Florida could also, Mark, host the WNBA season. That they are deciding between either Las Vegas or IMG Academy in Bradenton as to where it is they are going to play their season, but it looks as if the WNBA is also deciding on picking one location. Some other NBA news, and for those of us of a certain age, Wes Unseld passed away yesterday at the age of 74, one of 2 to ever be Rookie of the Year and Most Valuable Player as a rookie.
David, I may be out of bounds here. You are a far better historian on our show, but isn't Wes Unseld Charles Barkley before Charles Barkley?
Not as athletic, but an undersized center. I mean, he averaged 14 rebounds a game for his career at 6'7". So not as athletic as Barkley, but for his size, especially, we had true 7-footers in Unseld.
Yeah, he's playing against Artis Gilmore and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and And
Right.
Bob Lanier, I mean, he's
Right.
playing against some really big men every night.
You know, there were the Unselds and the Cowens,
Right.
and the Silases who managed to play center in the NBA in the 6'7", 6'8", 6'9" range, whereas you talked about, Mark, they were oftentimes going up against 7 and 7'1". You know, Willis Reed, I think you would also consider part of that group. But Wes Unseld won the league MVP as a rookie, in which he also was obviously Rookie of the Year. He led the then Washington Bullets to their only still NBA title in 1978. He's a Hall of Famer. He was a former coach with the Washington franchise, longtime executive with the franchise. Wes Unseld had been in poor health recently, and he passed away peacefully yesterday morning at the age of 74. Nothing peaceful about this story. Grant Napier. Have you heard about this, Mark? Longtime voice of the Sacramento Kings. And when I say longtime voice of the Kings, I'm saying that Grant Napier started broadcasting Sacramento Kings basketball during the final months of the Ronald Reagan administration. I mean, Napier is 60 years old. He was 28 when he got the Sacramento Kings job. I mean, basically his entire adult life has been in Sacramento. He has been a media mainstay in California's state capital. Over 30 years, the play-by-play voice. He's had a long-time radio show on a juggernaut radio station in the area. Well, he's had a feud with DeMarcus Cousins. It goes back to the day that Cousins got dealt by the Kings, and Napier went public and said that Cousins was a cloud that hung over the organization and throughout the locker room and what have you. And so Cousins sent Napier a harmless tweet on Monday in which he something along the lines, so what do you think about this Black Lives Matter? Threw it in there underhanded, and Napier responded with all lives matter, along with a few other sentences. Grant Napier's unemployed.
Well,
because Grant Napier didn't understand that all lives matter is considered an insult, all right, when someone is talking to you about Black Lives Matter. And he admitted that in the 24 hours afterward. He said, I was not aware of this, and I apologize for that. But the radio station that had the, afternoon drive show, they got rid of him first, and then he technically resigned, but the Kings forced him out. So 32 years as the play-by-play voice of the Sacramento Kings, and a harmless tweet from DeMarcus Cousins going, so Grant, what do you think about this? All right. And he responded and lost his career over it.
David, yeah, I'm going to piss a lot of people off when I say this, but until Black Lives Matter, all lives don't matter. Sorry.
So that story playing out in the California state capitol. And, I think the Kings, one of those franchises that will not resume also. So that's what took place. But he had been the play-by-play voice of the Sacramento Kings since 1988. It will be interesting to see, Mark, whether or not Broncos head coach Vic Fangio, whether there's any fallout based on what he said yesterday. Now, proper context here. Vic is in his early 60s. Vic waited a long time to finally become a head coach in the NFL. I mean, he's just going to start his second year in Denver. I think Vic got the gig at 61. And so Vic, who's been very supportive of his players and anything that they've said or done in the last week, but he was asked about the situation. And he said, and I quote, I don't see racism at all in the NFL. Now, if you go and then read his other comments before and after, he's clearly talking about players because he's talking about it's a meritocracy. We just play who's better. All right. We don't see race. We just see talent. We just see who's going to give us a better chance to win, etc. And you could see where Vic, who waited a long time to get a head coaching gig. In this sense, even though he is white, all right, he also, because of how long he had to wait, suffered some of the indignity that many a black assistant coach has to suffer, waiting a long time, if ever, to get that opportunity. And so, but Vic, I don't see racism at all in the NFL. You know, that quote is out there. He said he's going to address it some more on Thursday. Will be interesting to see if there is any fallout from those comments.
There may be. You know, one thing you and I have always talked about it is the military and sports is the first area in which we've jumped ahead of the rest of the world from a race standpoint. Where we
social, you might not think it, but from a social issue standpoint, our military and sports has oftentimes been ahead of society. You know, they desegregated before society did, more accepting. I mean, you know, you take a look back and you may have seen some of these stories here in the last week or so with what's going on, you know, the impact of certain pictures, even back in the 40s and 50s, in which there'd be a celebration in a locker room and a white player and a black player embracing. All right. And when that picture was made public, the impact that that type of picture had on American society. And so we got the Kings situation, we got the Broncos situation, and then we've got a little bit of a situation in Clemson. Now, I don't think this is going to last too much longer, but Dabo had a presser on Monday, and it didn't get good reviews, put it that way.
Which is rare, because most of Dabo's pressers get great reviews.
Well, yeah, he's very popular, he's very successful, he's very likable. But, you know, this was a press conference in which he was asked to talk about what's going on in our country right now. And as Pat Forty, I thought, eloquently put it, don't look to Dabo to be the reason for change. He's not going to be that guy. And he said it's pretty understandable. You know, here's a guy who thinks that America is the greatest country in the world, and look at all the opportunity it's provided him and what have you. And so he's not going to be that guy leading the charge up this particular hill. But what was rare for those that missed Dabo's presser on Monday was that there were even some former Clemson players who went on the record in the 24 hours after that presser and said, "Oh, that was pretty uninspiring. That was mediocre." And one player, tight end DJ Greenlee, went on the record and said, and, you know, I love Dabo, but, you know, his record on this isn't all that great. You know, we had an incident a few years ago in which one of the assistant coaches used the N-word, and Dabo didn't do a damn thing about it. And it kind of lingered out there in amongst the team for quite a while. The assistant coach turned out to be Danny Pearman. And for the record, he overheard a conversation that some of the players were having in a drill in which they used the N-word. And he then picked up on it and used it back in, you know, challenging them to, you know, do better, do more, et cetera. Now, the coaches and the players, you know, Pearman and that group of players had worked it out. And Greenlee went on to say, listen, Pearman spent the whole year apologizing. He felt awful, you know, good guy. You know, we had to explain to him, yeah, you just can't use that word. It doesn't matter if we use it first. You know, that's just the way it works. Okay. But so, you know, that's some of what's coming out of Clemson, South Carolina in the last 48 hours. Now, we'll see if it has any legs. I doubt it. But that's, you know, 3 stories in a row there, from Sacramento, California to Denver, Colorado to Clemson, South Carolina, which, you know, it all intertwine with what is going on in our country here in the last week to 10 days. Do you remember the coronavirus?
Heard of it. How is she?
Well, Oklahoma State linebacker Amen Ogbongbemiga has it. He showed up back on campus. Where they're doing it in Stillwater is 30 guys are showing up at a time, and they're testing all 30. Well, he had been to some protests in the days before he showed back up at Stillwater, whether he contracted it there or not, or whether he maybe helped give it to people there or not. We don't know. But anyway, he's got it. So he's going to be quarantined. He'll be tested at the end of the week, and then he'll be tested again. But also, Mark, it turns out that 2 Marshall players and a staffer have shown back up on campus, and they also have tested positive. So remember, it's June. A lot of campuses are opening back up this month. Just pay attention to how many players have it and what it is that teams are doing about it. It was also revealed, Mark, that South Carolina men's basketball coach Frank Martin came down with coronavirus last month. He's recovered, but that came out yesterday as well. Because of the coronavirus, the NFL announced there will be no joint practices this year. You know how in recent years, if teams were going to play on a Thursday night in a preseason game, they'd get together and they'd practice, say, Monday and Tuesday?
What?
No joint practices. Everybody's
what?
staying. Yes.
That is maybe the – look, at the things you said are all significant. From a sports standpoint, there is no bigger news than that. Teams live for these.
Because
these are the most – Pat Kerwin has come on our show for years and said – you preseason games, you may not even get in a 2-minute situation.
Right.
You practice against another team and you run 2-minute. You run this, you run that. This is big from an NFL, from a football standpoint, David.
Every team will stay at home all season long. They'll play the preseason games against one another, but they will not do anything else against one another. And finally, Mark, so far, remember that lawsuit about 3-4 weeks ago in which Zion is being sued by his former marketing company for breach of contract for $100 million. And they said that they are going to go, their discovery is going to have discovery. And they're alleging that Zion and his family got goodies to go to Duke. And Zion is fighting them in court. Well, they lost in Florida state court yesterday. A judge said that, no, Zion, you got to answer questions about, whatever it is they want to ask you, quite frankly. So obviously, Zion and his folks are going to appeal. This court case seems to be going on in both North Carolina and Florida. So it'll be interesting to see ultimately where this ends up. And at 12 minutes before the hour, that mark is...
5 big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton Starting 5.
Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
We'll come up with a poll question. I've got an idea.
Good.
It'll elicit a response or two if we go down that route. Seth Everett to join us coming up in about 90 minutes, which always elicits a response here on Miller and Moulton. Thanks so much for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Welcome to the program.
Give me 40 seconds. I need water and coffee.
Remember, he said he was taking his talents to South Beach. Kobe invented that phrase. LeBron said Kevin Love doesn't get to eat after a bad game. Mike did that to Horace Grant. If LeBron punched Kyrie Irving, we let him get away with everything. We don't let LeBron get away with anything.
Dan Patrick. The Dan Patrick Show. Weekdays at 9 a.m. on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
It's Fred Kobe with your Kobe Cooling Tip of the Day. There's a trend in the air conditioning business to buy up small companies and become a giant conglomerate like George Soros. Those ambitious corporate giants, to them I say, good luck. If you want to be just another number in the corporate bottom line, they'll be happy to take your money. Kobe Cooling is a local, hometown family with our focus on you, our family of customers. We know your name, and we remember your needs. Your comfort is our priority, and you're the most important part of our company. At Kobe Cooling, we value our personal, small-town relationship with you. It's been that way since my dad started his company in 1949, and at Kobe Cooling, it's never going to change. We're not for sale today, and we never will be. When you think of air conditioning companies, we hope you'll think of Kobe Cooling. No nonsense and no pressure. We're the company your neighbors use. Kobe, the most trusted name in this business since 1949. License CACO 57313.
We've got our good friend Tim Meister, owner of the Floor Meisters in Naples, on the phone. We're talking about their huge selection and great pricing on Core-Tec flooring. Tim, tell us what's new at the store.
Right now we have 90 colors of Core-Tec in stock, ready to go, pick up, put down as soon as you want it. Everything from starting at $299 on up with lifetime warranty.
And it's not just the many colors of Core-Tec that you have. You also have other Core-Tec products as well.
We also carry the Core-Tec stone product. Looks like tile, looks like stone, but it's Core-Tec.
What's that question?
The softness, quietness, and the installation to go with
about
it.
Kaepernick.
We also have Core-Tec wood, thick of wood, real wood, but with a more stable core.
And whether or not any of you have changed your mind about Kaepernick based on the events of the last 10 days.
6281 Naples Boulevard, right next
That your stance on Kaepernick, have you changed your opinion based on what's taken place in the last 10 days?
Listen to Miller and Moulton at home on your Amazon Alexa. Just say, Alexa.
Receiving.
Now, I don't just want to throw it out there during the short segment here because Joe Lockhart wrote a fascinating.
Let's do that at 7.
Yeah.
Let's just get through the 3 minutes and say we're coming back with a poll question that's going to sting you.
They continue to occur as a result. Now, many homeowners are just.
Well, Albert, did you think he was right in what he was doing the first time? Because I did.
Yeah, that to me, by the way, is the 3 answers.
Yes, I mean, because I thought he was, and David and I both, for the record, stood up for everything.
Yes.
David and I, from day one, said he had every right to kneel during the national anthem. We said, for a matter of fact, we would never. Why am I not on camera?
I don't know.
Now, with Cathedral Roofing Innovations, you got a great roofing company to inspect your roof for any damage.
What the heck?
And just because you don't have leaks doesn't mean you don't have issues. Just go to Cathedral Roofing Naples.
This is really strange.
They are the tile experts in Naples.
It's like your screen is frozen.
Just go to
I know.
CathedralRoofingNaples.com. CathedralRoofingNaples.com.
License number CCC 1331928.
Now back to Miller and Moulton.
All right, now we're getting somewhere.
No. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
7 minutes before 7 o'clock on this Wednesday morning, the 3rd of June. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. We're streaming this and every show on the station at foxsportsfm.com, and we are broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels, and our YouTube page is going to have a new look here coming up in a matter of days. Apparently, I've been encouraged to start writing again.
Not our you got that a little wrong. Not our YouTube page, our web page.
Oh, my bad.
Our web page. We are ready to release a lot of. We've got a whole new web page about done. I was hoping like hell we would have had it for our return, but it doesn't work out that way. I'm very fired up. We've a lot of time has been spent by a very good friend of the show, guy that's helped us out for years, on and off, and he's kind of invested in us and redid our entire website, and we're very fired up that I think by Monday we will launch that. And yes, David, one of the things it will have is a David Moulton blog.
Wow. Now David Moulton just has to blog. That's all.
We kind of threw it at you that way.
Yeah. I heard about that yesterday. It's like, well, this kind of puts the onus on me here because otherwise it's just going to sit here and be a big blob. So
yeah,
because of it, you have to blog. Got it. I see what you did there. I feel as if this is your guys' way of, my wife with the passive-aggressive buying of the edible arrangements.
Yes, it is. But here's what's interesting about this.
This will be millerandmoulton.com, right?
Right. Okay. Same website as before, but it will look like a real website as opposed to what it's looked like before.
Hot damn.
Be able to listen to the show on it, be able to download the podcasts on it. Everything you need to do will be there. But I want, many times, and this happens a lot, I think probably in your relationship, and as I'm approaching now 8 years of marriage, it's happening in mine, where you tell your wife something or your wife tells you something, and you don't hear a damn word the other person says. And then they proceed to tell you 5 or 6 days later when they're doing what they talked to you about, And you look at him with this blank stare as if saying, what the hell are you doing? And they're looking back at you like, hey, idiot, we had this conversation a week ago.
Right.
Well, David, when it comes to now a lot's going on in your life.
A little bit.
Since
you gotta give me that.
And we started this website. This has taken a while. It's been a few months in the works.
Right.
So going back to my very first meeting about the website, it was brought up that, hey, do you think David would want to do a blog? It's a way to get more hits. And I said, he's talked about it here and there. Every once in a while, David wants to write something and doesn't have a medium. So I asked you, and you said, yeah, I think I could do that. And needless to say, from then to now, you kind of forgot those conversations.
Yeah, that's about right. That's fair enough. But, I mean, this is pre-coronavirus.
Oh!
I mean, this
David, this
like
might have been
4 years ago.
2019.
Yeah, I mean, this seems like 4 years ago, for goodness sake.
How long ago does the Super Bowl seem?
Well, we figured it out yesterday. Yesterday was 100 days to the start of the NFL season. So obviously we're at 99 days to kick off of the Texans and the Chiefs. Well, the Super Bowl took place 120 or so days ago. That's it, just the Super Bowl.
4 months, seems like 4 years.
I mean, how long ago does it seem that Brady chose Tampa?
How long ago does it seem that they were playing the first round of the Players?
Yeah. Exactly.
Miller and Moulton.
Oof.
We will turn this show upside down in 3.5 minutes. I damn near guarantee it. Fox Sports Radio. Oh, boy. Let's go. I'm fired up.
LED color-changing pool lights can create an after-dark backyard oasis. Pick your color or select one of the light shows. You can see how dramatic it really is on our website. We're a family company. And for over 40 years, we've been doing business right.
The prescription is the Pool Doctor for award-winning pool service, repairs, and unheard of $39 diagnostic calls. That's mypooldoctor.com or 239-574-1133. State certified CPC 057088.
We work for you.
You know how it works, right?
We do this for you.
It's not often that you get to work with somebody who you respect.
We give you the information you need.
Every single day there's a news story. We got a story.
We've been working on that all morning long.
We do this all for you.
Which is how the business works.
We are Fox Sports Radio, and we're working hard for you.
Great news
You there?
Florida. Below invoice employee pricing at Galliana Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. That's right. Below invoice pricing on Chrysler Pacificas, Jeep Wranglers, Jeep Gladiators, and heavy-duty Ram trucks. Over 1,500 new and certified pre-owned vehicles in stock. Loaded, luxurious Grand Cherokee Limited lease. 0 down, $269 per month. That's right. Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited. 0 down, $269 per month. Plus at Galliana Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram.
Albert, I understand what you're saying, but you understand if we'd have taken that seriously maybe 3 years ago, we wouldn't have this shit going on right now. That's all I can tell you. I mean, I don't know what other ways you can look at it. Sorry. David, here's how I wrote the question. Oops, sorry. Here's how I wrote the question. Based on the events of the last 10 days, have you changed your stance on Colin Kaepernick kneeling for the national anthem to bring awareness to police brutality?
WFSX AM from Naples to Cape
I was just going to end it with, have you changed your stance on Colin Kaepernick?
All right, fair enough. That's why I asked.
Because there are those that may not see it as him kneeling for police
But that's
brutality.
what he was kneeling for. That's the only reason I wanted it in there. I don't know if people realize that was people don't know why he kneeled.
Well, they didn't believe him.
Okay. So based on your events of the last 10 days, have you changed your stance on Colin Kaepernick? Yes, no, I supported him from day one.
Correct.
Okay.
Because remember, Mark, a lot of people who were against him because they didn't see it as him kneeling for police brutality. They saw it as him insulting the country, the flag, etc.
Did you happen to see, very off subject, did you see the retweet of the little dog with the trick that the guy played on him that I put up yesterday? God dang it, it keeps popping up on my thing and it just makes me laugh. Guy plays a little sleight of hand trick with a squeaky ball and his dog. And the dog looks at the ball, and then immediately looks at the camera. Like, what the hell happened? It is just 6 seconds that makes me smile every morning.
Really upset that my daughter will not read one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish on Twitch because I needed content. That's what we've come to.
And Moulton.
Well, we need to explain to her the pilot program, and we need 25 hours of programming a week. So you need to deliver your 12 minutes a day, 5 times a week, because that's an hour, honey.
Southwest Florida's
Did you see the Australian video of what happened 2 days ago? When they rushed out of the White House, and they were live on Australian television and just took out the reporter.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
As we approach a couple minutes past the hour, thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming at foxsportsfm.com, broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels. The Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line remains the same. It is 479-5551, 479-5551. Want to chime in about anything that we are talking about on the show, or just anything that interests you? 479-5551.
I been getting a few texts from this guy, and I kind of laughed because yesterday we were talking about stolen bases, and all he sent was Ricky, Davey, Maury, Lou, and Ron LaFleur. Miss it all. But today he said Wes Unseld passing, and you brought that up in our starting five, and he says, Wes, the king of the two-hand outlet pass, the pick and roll. Rest in peace, big fella.
The Washington Bullets were a great franchise in the mid to late 70s.
Yes, pre-Magic and Bird. We got back-to-back Bullet Sonics, right?
78, 79, and I believe the Bullets also were the team that lost to Rick Barry and the Warriors in 75. So I believe that Unseld, along with the Big E, Elvin Hayes, they took the Bullets to 3 finals in 5 years.
Well, David, we have a poll question up.
We do, and I want to put it in perspective. So it's up to you, Mark, if you think we should release the poll question
I've put it
first.
out. I've put it out, but that's fine.
Okay.
It's on Twitter. But, people will get there. I want you to explain why we went with this poll question. And you and I talked about this a couple of days ago.
So I saw this, I think it was Sunday. Joe Lockhart, been a long time NFL executive, worked for the league, in fact, in a few years ago. And Joe Lockhart wrote a piece during what is taking place, obviously, in the last 10 days here, in which Joe Lockhart talked about Colin Kaepernick. And he said, I want to clear a couple things up about Kaepernick. He said, I worked in the league when 2016 and Kaepernick was kneeling and this, that, and the other thing. And he took you through some specific things that I think some of us thought, and some of us thought we knew. But the one thing that he said that he goes, everybody has gotten wrong, is the thought that the NFL, that Park Avenue has blackballed Colin Kaepernick, could not be further from the truth. And he said, in fact, Roger Goodell and league officials for 2 years were lobbying teams going, come on, I mean, this guy would be an upgrade. I mean, you can sign Kaepernick, et cetera. And Lockhart said that basically what it came down to was that NFL owners had figured out, based on whether it was the mail that they were getting or what have you, that they came to a conclusion that signing Colin Kaepernick could cost them up to 20% of their revenue. And they said, he ain't worth it. I'm not losing money over Colin Kaepernick. Not losing money over him. I'm sorry. Can't do this for you. There are many that believe, however many years ago now that it was, that Michael Sam, who came out as the Missouri defensive lineman, and he fell to the 7th round, and he was drafted late, and he was drafted by the then St. Louis Rams, Jeff Fisher.
Which was always the weird one, too, because that was nowhere near a position of need. It was actually a license to fail for him because there was no spot for this guy on that team.
No, the Rams were not good at that time, but the one place they were loaded was defensive line. And so, but the Rams drafted him. And there are a lot of people that believe that the Rams, took a bullet for the league, that the league was like, hey, come on, don't shun the guy because he's gay. Somebody draft him, please. And so the Rams said, yeah, fine, we'll draft him. And obviously he didn't make the team and then didn't have an NFL career. Well, apparently the league had for 2 years, Joe Lockhart claimed that the league called around and was like, come on, really? There's no place for Colin Kaepernick. He's not better than what you have. And Lockhart said that it came down, it was money, period. The owners would not sacrifice a dime for Kaepernick. It was not the cause nearly as much as it was the money.
It was the money. He said for many owners came to the same thing. Signing Kaepernick they thought was bad for business. An executive from one team that considered signing Kaepernick told me the team projected losing 20% of their season ticket holders if they did. That was a business risk no team was willing to take, whether the owner was a Trump supporter or a bleeding heart liberal. And in parentheses, he says, yes, those do exist. As bad of an image problem as it presented for the league and the game, no owner was willing to put the business at risk over this issue.
And so Lockhart then concluded, and I believe he wrote this for CNN.com.
Yes, he did.
And Lockhart concluded his piece by saying, I think now the time has come that, A, somebody should sign Kaepernick. That, hey, upon further review, maybe the guy was right. But that, B, of all the teams that should sign him, he said, the Vikings should sign him here pretty quickly. And I will say, just from a football standpoint, he would be an upgrade over, I believe, even though he hasn't played 3 full seasons, he'd be an upgrade to what they have at backup quarterback number 1. And this is a team that views itself as a contender. But obviously the social and political dynamic of what's going on in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and here would be the Vikings signing Colin Kaepernick, who took a knee to protest police brutality. That's what he always claims. Some of you didn't see it that way. And, so Joe Lockhart concluded his, I thought, fascinating column, if you will, in which he kind of let you in behind the curtain as to what was going on in the NFL and then said, I think the time has come, whether it's a mulligan, do-over, admit your mistake, the statement that this would make by the Vikings of all the teams. All right. The statement that it would be made by the Vikings if they did it. And he said the time is now for the Vikings to sign Colin Kaepernick.
For the record, Miller and Moulton supported Colin Kaepernick from day one. We stated very quickly that, one, neither of us would ever kneel for the national anthem. Ever. However, there's this thing called freedom of speech. And we, from day one, supported Colin Kaepernick using that freedom of speech.
Well, and the other thing that we saw it as, because we saw it as a police brutality issue. We did not see it as an American flag patriotism issue. And
in fact, going back to the beginning of it, sorry, David, but going back to the beginning of it, he was sitting on the bench for 2 games. And it was after the second game of him sitting on the bench that an NFL Network person saw him and asked him about it.
Right, what are you doing?
And he then said that was why. It was at that point that a Green Beret, who was very upset about him not standing for the anthem, they met.
Correct.
And that Green Beret, someone who served in our military at about the highest level you damn well can, said kneeling would be a much more appropriate way to protest what you're protesting than sitting.
And so beginning with the 3rd preseason game in 2016, Kaepernick began kneeling during the anthem. Eric Reed and one other player joined him. And we all know what took place the rest of that year. And Kaepernick's been out of the league for the last 3 years. So when I read the Joe Lockhart piece, and I thought that this would be, because obviously we all know what's going on in the last week and a half, and we don't oftentimes enter those lanes and we try desperately to stay out of those lanes. But I thought that a way to at least address in a minor way, which has a sports component of what is going on, is to just say, essentially, upon further review, change your tune at all about Kaepernick? Yes, no, or I'd supported him in the first place.
Yeah, based on the events of the last 10 days, have you changed your stance on Colin Kaepernick? Yes, no, I supported him from day one. Early voting hasn't changed one human's mind.
Well, and I think this is important. I think it's important to find out. I do. I think, A, it's, for lack of anything else, interesting or fascinating. But two, I think it's important. I mean, we as a country we're going to have to move forward from this.
Right.
At some point.
And you know, and look wow, you put me at a spot here, David, where I'm choosing my words very wisely right now, or at least trying to for the moment, because I'm not for destruction of any sort. But it's amazing when LeBron switched teams, we had a city burning LeBron jerseys, and that was okay. It's amazing when Kaepernick took this stance, people burned Nike gear when they ran that ad, and that's okay. I'm not for destruction, guys. I'm not. But to me, if people aren't seeing a bigger picture, I worry. And I'll stay in my lane, David. You tell me to stop, I'll stay in my lane.
No, listen, if anything, in the last 10 days, I think we've all been encouraged to take whatever action it is that you feel you need to take, whether it's being quiet and listening or whether it is speaking out. So I'm certainly not going to tell you what to say or do here. But I thought that this was a sports angle to what is going on in our country in the last 10 days. And it's just a way to take a snapshot. You know, we all know Colin Kaepernick in the events in the fall of 2016. We all know he hasn't played in the 3 years since. And now we all know what's taken place in our country in the last 10 days and what is being discussed and debated. And Colin Kaepernick from the beginning said, hey, I am taking a knee to protest what we are now facing in our streets here in the last 10 days. And so I think it is an interesting question to revisit. It's an interesting issue to revisit. I think it's a timely question to ask.
Let me ask you a question specifically to sports as I try to do my best to stay in our lane. If Lockhart was correct in his article in saying that a team would lose 20% of their season ticket holders if they would have signed Kaepernick, and I think that that's reasonably accurate.
And that's a lot of people. I mean, let's just take
2,000. David, I have 2 tickets. I have 2 good seats for the Bucks. It's $2,200.
Okay.
Well, I mean, 20. That's one. That's one of 60,000 season ticket holders.
Right. You know, 20% is 12,000 tickets there.
Right.
Right. You know, do the math.
It's a quick $250,000 at the gate.
And the Bucks have one of the smallest NFL stadiums going, and before Brady signed there, one of the smallest season ticket bases
and
going.
One of the cheaper ticket bases. That's a quick $250,000 before you get into parking, concessions, and the rest. So my question to you is this. Do you think today, in where we are, signing Kaepernick would cost you 20% of your season tickets, cost you 0% of your season tickets, or add season tickets?
I don't think it would add. And I do think it would cost you some. I think it would cost you in the 5 to 8% range still. I don't think they might not be as vocal about it as they would have at any point in the last 3 years, but I still think it would cost you, as early returns in our poll question mark are indicating. I mean, that's my gut feeling. All right. That's my gut feeling. And now there is an interesting phenomenon going on in Minneapolis, St. Paul, from a business standpoint in the last week. There are many places that are discontinuing their ties with the Minneapolis Police Department. The school district just announced yesterday that basically by September, they're going to find a way to provide security and what have you, and do it without the Minneapolis police. The University of Minnesota announced very early on that with the exception of very few instances, they're not going to deal with the Minneapolis police anymore. They're going to go a different route. But this would be big here. The Vikings signing Kaepernick would be a monstrous statement. Monstrous. And I do think, Mark, in that part of the country, forget what is going on now. The Vikings are the team. For as beloved as the Twins are, the wear your emotion on your sleeves team, the fan base that is foaming far more than any of the others in a town that, remember, has 4 pro sports teams and a major college. But I think they could do it. I think they could do it, and it would. In most other cities, it would cost them 5 to 8% of their season ticket base. I think right now with what's going on in Minneapolis, St. Paul, it would cost them virtually none.
Yeah, I don't think it would cost them any there. I think there's a few other cities that it wouldn't cost. I don't think it would cost. Never thought it would cost them any in Seattle. I never thought it would cost them any in Atlanta. There are a handful of cities where I think this actually would be viewed as a positive. But it is our poll question today. Go to that Mark Miller, the David Moulton. Based on the events of the last 10 days, have you changed your stance on Colin Kaepernick? Right now, about 2 in 10 of you say that it has.
Which is...
I think that's significant, believe it or not, David.
I agree. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to ask the question.
Because there's never been, outside of from Pete Rose on and steroids, I don't know if there's a more toxic topic in today's sports radio than Colin Kaepernick for the last however long. So if it ends up being somewhere around 18, 20%, I think that would be a pretty big jump in the way people think going forward. We shall see. You can always text the show at 479-5551 to the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text line. As always, you can join us on twitch.tv. Miller and Moulton is where you find us. Sign up, and it is interactive. As Sean says, I don't think it would cost a team any seats. Most season ticket holders are all talk.
Well, I'll say this. John Mara, the Giants, might very well have been the owner that Joe Lockhart was referring to. John Mara of the Giants was very public in saying, in all the years that our family has owned the Giants, we have never received. And remember, they were receiving this unsolicited. You know, it's not like the Giants were ever openly talking about signing Colin Kaepernick. And so the Giants, according to one of their owners, we received more mail and more vitriol about this issue than anything throughout our entire time that we own the team. Winning, losing, conduct of our players, you name it. And I remember that John Mara had said, 20+% of the season ticket base had told him, you sign them, we're done. And the Giants have one of the bigger stadiums and one of the bigger season ticket bases. I mean, that's 15, 18,000 season tickets right there. Because Giants games are sold out. And that's a 78,000, 80,000 seat stadium. So, that's a few people. That's 16,000+ season tickets right there. And so I think that's who that Joe Lockhart was referencing, John Mara and the Giants, in terms of 20% of their season ticket base. Never mind, you don't know if you're going to lose any sponsorship over it also. We saw that in the past, once again, going back to Minneapolis, St. Paul, when Adrian Peterson ran into the trouble that he ran into, in which he lashed his kid And when the Vikings didn't act fast enough, their big sponsor, when they do all their press events and they've got the tarp behind them and whoever their big sponsor is that pays about $500,000 to $1 million a year. So every time they do an interview, their logo gets seen. Yeah, those people dropped them in a day. That's how unhappy they were with the Vikings. But I thought it was an interesting story, Mark. Let's face it. Most of us did not think that the league for 2 years worked the phones trying to get Kaepernick back in their league.
No, we thought it was 32-1. I mean, we thought they were all completely in step together in this.
So that's number one. And then number two, an interesting idea that he broached, which, see, I've always looked at Kaepernick from a football standpoint. You know that. And you and others have patted me on the head. Pat has patted me on the head. But I've always thought that there were instances in which, hey, Kaepernick upgrades you here. He makes you better here. And I can look at Minnesota's backup quarterback situation and go, I understand he's got 3 years worth of rust, but come on. I mean, this guy's better than what you got. And besides, in theory, he's not going to play. I mean, he's your backup quarterback. What's the issue here?
And that's where I always came at you from, David. That was my thing. He'd been out for 2 years. This was not an anthem thing to me. It's a football thing. The guy was okay. He had a good run. And we're going to bring this guy in as a backup to bring all these headaches to our organization. I never thought about it. I never once thought about it from the money standpoint. I always thought about it from the disruption of my room. And that's why I always said the team that he could go to was New England. Because Belichick doesn't put up with anything.
So now, if this gets revisited by a team, what kind of distraction, if any, do you think there will be?
David, in Minnesota, you nailed it because you told me personally, you said that you said this out loud to me before this article was out. You texted when we were talking, boy, what if the Vikings signed Cap? And I'm like, ooh. So you nailed this from the get-go. In that town right now, David, it not only wouldn't hurt him, I actually think it might help.
Well, but there are other cities, too, in which maybe at some point in time in the last 3 years, it would have brought grief. It would have brought a distraction. And now I think in some of those NFL cities, it wouldn't. Not everywhere. I mean, I could still rattle off half the league in which I think if they signed Kaepernick, oh, boy, this would be a distraction.
But I think, I'll tell you what, let's just take a state. In Dallas, it would be a huge distraction. In Houston, I don't know if it would. It wouldn't be in Atlanta.
No, it would not.
Wouldn't be in Minneapolis. Don't know if it'd be in D.C. right now, David.
Wouldn't be in Seattle. Don't think it would be for either one of the Los Angeles franchises.
Miller and Moulton. Seth Everett coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. Go to that Mark Miller or the David Moulton to answer our poll question. Miller and Moulton. Fox Sports Radio streaming at foxsportsfm.com, and you are looking live on twitch.tv.
This is The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
James Harrison's talking to Barstool Sports, came out and said, 10 years ago, I lit this guy up for the Cleveland Browns, knocked him out of a game, and after the game, Mike Tomlin gave me an envelope. I'm not going to tell you what was in the envelope, and I doubt it was Mike Tomlin with a thank you card for the big hit. The Bounty Gate was different. Something happened and you discover it 10 years ago, and I discovered it now.
Colin Cowherd. Weekdays at noon on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio and foxsportsfm.com.
Even in my 80s, every dive is exciting and enjoyable. When I developed cataracts years ago, I couldn't see well underwater. You can have the best gear and know the best dive spots. If your eyes aren't the best, it's just not the same. And Dr. Scheibo knows that.
Knowing how much Jimbo cares about diving, it was a privilege to fix his vision.
It's great to know that we got eye doctors in our area that care just as much about me as I care about being in the water.
So, David, come up here this morning, and walking up to the studio, I had my water in my hand, and I'm looking because Frank wasn't in our bedroom. Frank wasn't You know, I went out to the pool this morning. Frank wasn't anywhere. Like, where the hell's the dog? Maddie last night when she went to bed shut all the doors upstairs, including the studio where Frank was asleep on the couch. He was like a bat out of hell coming out of here in the morning.
Sure. He had to go.
Oh, God, that was funny.
Tim, tell us what's new at the store.
Right now we have 90 colors of Core-Tech in stock, ready to go pick up, put down as soon as you want it. Everything from starting at $299 on up with lifetime warranty.
And it's not just the many colors of Core-Tech that you have. You also have other Core-Tech products as well.
We also carry the Core-Tech stone product. Looks like tile, looks like stone, but it's Core-Tech, so you get the softness, quietness, and the easy installation to go with it. We also have Core-Tech wood. Look of wood, real wood, but with a more stable core for Southwest Florida's humidity.
If you haven't been to the Floormeisters, you really owe it to yourself to visit the store. 6281 Naples Boulevard, right next to Costco, or go online. Floormeisters.com. That's floormeisters.com.
Dial star 2020. France Eye Care.
Attention community heroes, France Eye Care would like to express our appreciation for all that you do as you serve on the front lines, and that's why we're offering $1,500 off bilateral LASIK for first responders. All EMTs, firefighters, police officers, and critical care workers in hospitals and minor emergency clinics are eligible to receive this benefit through May 31st. Dr. Jonathan France, one of the original pioneers in the field of LASIK surgery, and his expert team of surgeons at France Eye Care want to help you experience better vision and a better life without the hassle of contacts and glasses. In addition to this amazing $1,500 off LASIK special, France Eye Care now offering free LASIK screenings through virtual consultations. Dial star 2020 from your mobile phone to schedule a virtual consultation at a convenient time for you. Thank you, first responders.
France Eye Care.
I'm a busy person. Catch the show anytime. Check out MillerandMoulton.com and subscribe to the daily podcasts.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
Dan Martineau here, owner of D.R. Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida. We're still finding a lot of roofs with hurricane and windstorm damage. Call us today for a free inspection. Google DRM Roofing or call 239-332-1441.
License number CCC 1326954.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
Pool need a checkup? Call the doctor, the Pool Doctor.
Hi, Dr. Mark here. Do the math. Taking care of your pool is probably not a good use of your time and money. Free $50 Bonefish gift certificates when you sign up for one of our award-winning weekly service plans. We're a family company, and for over 40 years, we've been doing business right.
The prescription is the Pool Doctor for award-winning pool service, repairs, and unheard of $39 diagnostic calls. That's mypooldoctor.com or 239-574-1133. State certified CPC 057088.
Here we go. Now back to Miller and Moulton. No. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
$29 minutes past 7 o'clock. Miller and Moulton, thanks for waking up with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming at foxsportsfm.com and broadcasting live once again on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels. You can chime into the show, call or text in via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. 479-5551 is the number, 479-5551. To chime into the show. Our poll question is up. That Mark Miller, the David Moulton on Twitter or millerandmoulton.com. Have the events in the last 10 days caused you to change your tune concerning Colin Kaepernick? Yay, nay, or no, because I supported him in the first place. And that is our poll question on this hump day.
Yeah, and half the people supported him in the first place. 42% still don't support him, and a whopping 7.9% have changed their mind.
That number seems to be going down. I would be curious as to what our poll results turn out to be. Also, the number of people that respond.
Well, response has been pretty heavy early, so I would imagine it will be pretty heavy throughout the day. And let me ask you this one, David. Card Sharks number, because, well, this show is based loosely on late 70s to about 85 life. I mean, most of our references come from about 79 to about, what, 89?
Okay.
Card Sharks. We were big, David and I, big into the game shows.
Love Card Sharks.
Card Sharks number. I'm going to give you 11.5% for yes. Where are you going to go?
Ooh, in terms of
the yes vote. Of the yes vote. Right now it's 7.9%. I'm going to tell you for the day, my Card Sharks number is 11.5%.
I'm going to go higher. Close, though. Close.
I couldn't go 10 because I think it's going to be a touch above 10.
I'm going to go higher.
All right.
I'm going to go higher because you're basically going 1 out of 9 people changing their tune, and I'm going to go 1 out of 8. Which is 12.5%. I think it's going to be ever so slightly higher. 479-5551, 479-5551, the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. Did you see this on Monday? That Jason Whitlock is no more with Fox Sports.
And on his own, I mean, I'm sure there was a money thing there, but it certainly seemed that as if he stepped away from, he's got his own thing going.
Yeah, he thinks that he's a brand and that he'll be able to monetize it, and just, no sense that Fox making money off him, that he'll make the money off of him. And this is risking his entire career because he's had 2 dances with both ESPN and Fox. So it's difficult to imagine that he'll get a third bite at either apple. And there's really no other apple to dance with. So it's interesting because Whitlock had a good second run at Fox and had gotten pretty good reviews, in fact.
Well, in his show that Cowherd left, that Marcellus Wiley, speak for yourself?
Yes.
That Marcellus Wiley had taken over with Whitlock was doing well. The ratings were increasing. It was going, It was moving forward in a good way. So he walked away from a show that was on the rise.
And those in the media, industry are paying attention to Skip Bayless. Is Fox going to walk away from Skip? I mean, Skip makes 6, might even make 6.5. Skip Bayless makes a lot of money for a show that draws less than 150,000 viewers. $6 to $6.5 million. And is Fox going to keep on writing those checks and re-sign him? And or if in fact they part ways, does ESPN bring him back and put him with Stephen A? And then Max Kellerman goes on to do other things and live where he wants to live and do what it is he wants to do, because it's widely known that Max took one for the team. Max was set up in L.A. and he was on L.A. radio, and he had the other show that he was on in the middle of the afternoon on ESPN.
And boxing's still big in L.A. Boxing's bigger in L.A. than it is in New York.
Yes.
I mean, in New York's a great history of fights, but L.A. is much more of a fight town than New York is right now. And that's Max's passion.
Correct. And so, just a little media talk there, in case you missed it over the last couple days. Also, someone that you've seen for many a year on ESPN, Josina Anderson, did not have her contract picked up by the 4-letter network. She did have an exclusive this past football season with AB. And I don't know if you saw it. Speaking of which, Dion is working out with AB.
Yeah, he's been in full support of trying to get AB a job.
Yeah. Here's my question about AB. Forget can he play and would he be a good teammate? Isn't there an off-the-field issue that's hanging over AB? Isn't there an alleged assault on a woman?
Yeah, but, I mean, there's been nothing criminally that's come up with that, David. Nothing's happened in criminal court. Now, I know the league can still act on it, but nothing's happened outside of that.
Well, don't you think, though, I mean, that the league's got to, one way or another, say that there's some there or there isn't? Because it's just kind of hanging out there, and it's been a while now.
Yes.
I mean, it's been a while. This goes back to the second half of last season. So we're talking 7-8 months here. So that's the thing that struck me when I saw Dion working with AB. I'm like, is he even in good standing with the league?
We don't. Yes, because they've never made a ruling on anything. So at the moment, as far as I know, yes, he is, David, because they never bothered to go forward with any of the claims that were made. 479-5551. Our poll question today centers around Colin Kaepernick. If, based on the recent events, have you changed your tune on Colin Kaepernick? Yes, no? I always supported him. Texters, I've always supported Colin because I'm a veteran and I serve to protect our freedom. And like what they say or not, they have the right to speak it. If we censor them, we live in China, where people can't talk about nothing, and I'm up in prison. Someone else said, Mark, earlier you stated nobody cared when Nike products and LeBron jerseys were burned. Well, people were burning their own property, not someone else's. Point taken. This person says, if the Vikings were to sign Kaepernick, how long after Cousins has a bad game would there be race baiters complaining that a team is staying with Cousins as the starter because of race? Nobody. It's 2020. It's 2020. Would you quit with the race baiting for white versus black quarterbacks? My goodness.
Well, in fairness to that person, they just asked. They said, how long would it be until? All right. I would like to think that the football fan, wherever, if he were to be re-signed, would realize, hey, this guy's rusty, hasn't played in 3 full seasons. 3 full seasons. And that nobody's going to be banging the table saying he should be the one that plays.
This person says, as a Vikings fan, I cannot tell you I would be done with my team. I don't know really what that means. I asked him again to repeat it, and he said it the same way. I believe it would be seen as an empty gesture by the black community, not solving anything at all.
So an empty gesture to the black community is what he's saying.
Yes.
Because obviously, I mean, the Vikings as an organization would be the ones that sign him. But see, and I don't for this reason. There's football merit to it. I mean, I do think, Pat, all the time on his radio show, they go through, teams, position groups, and who's got the strongest this and who's got the weakest this. I mean, can you name me who the Vikings backup quarterback is? Because I don't think it's anybody with any experience.
And I just don't know. And from a football standpoint, David, I don't know if he has anything left.
I understand that.
I've always said that from a football standpoint. And I don't know if, and I've always said this as well. While I've supported what he did, I understand why it happened, but I've always said that I don't know if he wants to be a backup.
Well, all you can do is offer him the position.
Right.
But the one thing that reportedly in the past, reportedly Seattle came the closest to offering him a contract. And that when they were talking to him, they said, hey, do you think there's any way you couldn't kneel? And he went, no. No, if you sign me, you get what you get. And then Seattle thought about it and said, we're good. Well, does anybody think that will be the issue now that it was then? I mean, anybody? I mean, if the Vikings take Joe Lockhart's suggestion and they sign Colin Kaepernick, and Kaepernick's on the sidelines, preseason, regular season, what have you, and he takes a knee, does anybody think this is going to be – because, by the way, I'm going to go out on a limb right now and say you're going to have a lot of players taking knees this year in the NFL. I'm going to go out on a limb right now and say it. All right. You're going to have dozens. You're going to have dozens of players.
Yes.
You're going to have dozens of players that are taking a knee during the anthem or whenever this year.
You may have entire teams, David.
So,
I mean, I know it's not the anthem, but one of the pictures that we've seen the most of that people get the best reactions is when some of these police lines and these protests are kneeling. And when police are kneeling with citizens. If you don't think the first anthem of the NFL week is, and the first anthem of college football, David.
I don't know.
I'll make you a $20 bet right now that college athletes are kneeling first week.
Oh, boy.
I'll make you a $20 bet. David, look, now I'm going off topic, and I don't want to do this, but a lot of the things that have been done, and I know people have a lot of different views on the protest, but the young people, David, are the ones going out doing things. The ones that we've always said that don't do anything and don't care.
Yeah, I know. Mark, I think they'll want to. I don't know if they're going to be encouraged to.
Well, and as Sean said, they won't be let on the field during the anthem. That's probably what will happen. And Sean, you're probably right.
Well, and I believe that's the way it is now, right?
Right. You're right, Sean. That's actually, I'm wrong. But I wouldn't be surprised if you see bands. I wouldn't be surprised if you see cheerleaders. Well, I'm telling you right now, if they have fans in the stands for college games, you will see people kneeling during the anthem.
Well, in college football, they don't have the players on the field during the anthem. That is true. They do the anthem with the bands out on the field.
Well, the bands play it.
Correct. But they don't, the teams are not on the field during the anthem. So logistically, I don't think you'll see it in college. We could have the whole other debate as to whether or not basically the head coaches will allow it, and because college is different than pro, et cetera. Now in the NFL, I believe that the compromise that they came to was, if you want to protest during the anthem, stay in the locker room.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Tunnel. Well, I understand. I'm just saying that's what's been done the last couple years. And then you see the occasional player, the anthem would be over, and all of a sudden you'd see somebody run out from the tunnel. And I believe the last player doing it in the NFL is Kenny Stills.
Yes.
Who's now with the Texans.
And the NFL, people tried to say, and still this has been debated, well, there's a rule. No, there's not. There's never been a rule. There's an agreement. It's not a rule.
The NBA put a rule in.
Correct.
In the mid-'90s, they did. All right, the former Chris Jackson, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. All right, and he protested the anthem, and David Stern called him in and said, do it again, you'll never play in the league, and passed a rule the next day. So, but it's our poll question. Have the events of the last 10 days caused you to change your tune on Colin Kaepernick? Yay, nay, or actually I supported Kaepernick from the beginning. Those are our responses. That Mark Miller, the David Moulton, millerandmoulton.com. It's interesting because this is not something that you and I have discussed here in the last few days, in which we were talking about this upcoming NFL season. But Mark, you and I are in agreement in which we think there's going to be a lot of knees. Don't know when they're going to do it, but we think there's going to be a lot of kneeling.
Yep.
And it will be fascinating because also, when is the last time that there was a decent amount of kneeling? It was in the fall of a presidential campaign. And if it were to take place again, and you and I think it will, when would it take place? During the fall of the next presidential campaign. Miller and Moulton. 16 minutes before the top of the hour. Today was the day when. Coming up, Seth Everett in about 40 minutes. Thanks for making us part of your day. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Drive home with the Doug Gottlieb Show.
And if you don't want to accept this, you just don't want to deal with reality. NFL GMs sit down and go, hey, are we good enough for the quarterback position? If not, we got to fix it. You know why? Because if we don't fix the quarterback position, you're out of a job. And most importantly, I'm out of a job. Nobody cares about race. Do you know how I know? Because talk to them. Well, subconsciously? Bull crap subconsciously.
Doug Gottlieb, afternoons at 3 on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Let's face it, these are stressful times. New routines, the constant bombardment of bad news, and trying to keep you and your family safe all the time. It's Frank for Center for Men's Health. During these stressful times, Your mood is so critical, and nothing's more important to a guy's mood than testosterone.
1989, Vin Scully broadcast 23 innings in 2 different cities on one day. Are you aware? I don't know what games.
What?
Is a greatly improved mood. Many are grumpy when they
1989, sportscasting legend Vin Scully broadcast 23 innings in 2 different cities on one day.
So he must have did the NBC Game of the Week.
I know.
And
now
then went to wherever the Dodgers were.
for a couple of years, and recently I've lost.
I'm guessing like New York and Philadelphia.
I'm guessing San Francisco and L.A., but
Oh, it could be San Francisco, Oakland. That's true.
I got to try to look it up here.
Right now. Find out more. Go to c4mh.com.
Great news, Southwest Florida. Below invoice employee pricing at Galliana Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. That's right.
Gotta find something that I can drink, Mark.
Someone was asking yesterday, what are you drinking?
And right now the answer is water. I just need something with a little flavor.
What about like a lemonade or an iced tea?
Yeah, the sugar. Oh, I gotta figure it out. Got to figure it out.
You can drive payment-free for 4 months, interest-free for 6 years, and worry-free up to 100,000 miles. Our parts service and body shop are open to serve you. Below invoice employee pricing at Galliana.
Like the poll question?
I love it. You know I do.
I know.
Open every day, including Sunday. Call
I don't come up with many good ones.
2600 GallianaCars.com. 42 monthly sum, 10,000 miles per year, 0 to 8 plus tax, title, doctor, dealer fee, 0 security deposit, $13.80 per month, per $1,000 for 72 months, 0 APR with 0 down with lender approved.
This is our commitment to you. We're going to bring the fun.
This was all an elaborate joke.
We're going to bring the joy.
We want to entertain you.
We're going to be there for you always. We'll be your escape. That's our commitment to you.
A committed, focused culture.
We are Fox Sports Radio.
It's Fred Kobe with your Kobe Cooling Tip of the Day. I'd like to tell you that I'm the best AC mechanic in my company, but I'd be lying to you. I think my NATE-certified mechanic team hides my tools from me so I don't hurt myself. You see, I'm the old guy, and I've been doing this work since I was a kid with my dad. Our younger staff are really the best mechanics in this business, and they've been through years of training and years of testing, with continuing education to keep up to date on the latest and greatest things.
And they didn't even know Tony Bruno.
Brag about their experience,
Sorry.
and we certainly have that.
But you know.
I'm most proud of our team being on the cutting edge and the leaders in technology and application of the modern air conditioning equipment. That's why we've been voted best air conditioning company in Southwest Florida year after year in the news press polls. It's not me, it's the best team of NATE-certified mechanics ever assembled. Call 239-482-1542 and experience the best. License CACO 57313.
Attention, Southwest
Got that
Florida.
news yesterday also. Had a few issues lately with our air conditioning unit. Gonna need a new one.
Oh, well, congratulations. You know, nothing like spending another few $1,000s.
Right. We don't have enough bills on the table right now.
Hundreds of new SUV models to choose from, all backed by our exclusive unlimited mile lifetime warranty. Pick out your favorite.
So, David, I would tell you there's only one reason. If there's an account like this, I would almost suggest you get Facebook. I follow this vintage Detroit sports thing, and they just put pictures, a Tigers thing, and all of a sudden they'll put Ben Ogilvy, circa 1976. There is nothing better than seeing players that you idolized as a kid, even though they weren't that good.
If KBB says 10, we'll give you 18. You must act fast, though. Visit NaplesNissan.com for full details.
I know if you saw a Met pitcher, you know, a Met pitcher of a player from like 73 to 80, you'd just be happy.
Now back to Miller and Moulton. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're like,
"11 minutes before 8 o'clock. Thanks so much for listening. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Our poll question at that Mark Miller, the David Moulton on Twitter, or millerandmoulton.com. Have the events of the last 10 days caused you to change your tune on Colin Kaepernick? Yay, nay, or no, because I supported him from the beginning. Those are the options. That Mark Miller, the David Moulton on Twitter, millerandmoulton.com. Otherwise, Mark, on our Twitch chat room, many a suggestion as to what I could drink besides water.
Right. That was our we have in the last few days we have had an NHL playoff / lottery discussion during the break, an MLS lockout discussion during the break, and most recently, David just simply said, I got to find something to drink.
Right.
And the suggestions piling in because David is water only, and this is a guy that was at one point could have competed against John Daly for most Diet Cokes drinking in a day.
Absolutely. Well over 100 ounces of.
You and JD could have gone at it with the Diet Cokes.
Yep. I think I've had my last soda. It's my understanding.
At least a dark soda, right? You had mentioned that you might be able at some point to have a ginger ale or a 7-Up type thing.
Haven't confirmed it, but I think I'm not allowed to have a dark cola ever again. So,
well, if that's not a better intro to Today Was the Day When, I don't know what is. So let's get after it.
Miller and Moulton's Today Was the Day When, giving you the history of today's date so you're a beacon of useless knowledge around the office.
Useless, but a lot of fun to talk about.
This is Today Was the Day When, Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
All right, we go in the Wayback Machine. 1539, David, is where we start today because Hernando de Soto claims Florida for Spain today in 1539. The explorer Hernando de Soto lands on the coast of Florida somewhere between present-day Tampa Bay and Charlotte Harbor.
Hold on. It wasn't Ponce de Leon?
Hernando de Soto. What the hell am I saying over here?
No reason to go Jerry Stiller on me. I'm just always had it in my head. It was Ponce de Leon.
A year later, the same guy crossed the Appalachian Mountains. First European to do so.
Man, talk about a guy who can't stand still.
We go all the way to 1932, where Lou Gehrig is the first to hit 4 consecutive home runs as the Yanks beat the A's 20-13. 1964, the Stones begin their first U.S. tour. 1967, Respect by Aretha Franklin reaches #1 in the nation. 1980, I think this is a significant day for sports television, David. ESPN's already out, but they began televising the College World Series. And they didn't have a lot of live program. And that was the first look that most of us ever had of the College World Series. And watch some great baseball.
Well, think of some of who we saw in the early 80s, too. I mean, Texas with Roger Clemens is one of the first teams I remember that we saw. The great Miami and LSU teams, and just tremendous ball players.
I remember the fake or the hiding the ball Hurricanes trick. I'd never seen that before, and they pulled off the fake throw to first, and he goes in the dirt and had the ball the whole time. And watching it on live TV, it was one of the moments when I became a Canes fan because of Canes baseball.
Mississippi State team with Palmero, Will Clark, and Jeff Brantley in the early 80s. One of those that made it
Some Arizona State teams that were legendary. Yep. Yeah, it was just terrific baseball. 1989 was the beginning of the Tiananmen Square massacre as Chinese troops opened fire on pro-democracy supporters. Just thought it was relevant to bring that up today. 1989, sportscasting legend Vin Scully broadcast 23 innings in 2 different cities on one day. So he obviously did the national game and then had to come back and do a Dodger game.
Right. Game of the week, must have gone 14 innings, or went 9, and then he went and did the Dodgers game. So we're thinking, is this New York to Philly? Is this San Francisco to Oakland? I mean, where was he that he could do, unless by chance... Well, because it's 2 different cities, right?
Right.
Oh. Okay. I've done 3 games in a day, by the way. That's my most.
Excuse me?
I did 3 games in a day.
Yeah, but same, like a tournament?
No. I did a hockey game at noon, and then I drove 2+ hours to do a basketball men's women's doubleheader. 3 games in a day is my max.
All right, now you made me do this. I had to go to baseballreference.com to figure out what games he did. Now,
well, find the 14-inning one.
Well, I'm not finding the fourth. I see Cubs Cardinals went 10, but the Dodgers and Astros went. It says it went 22.
Huh. Well,
so now I'm really confused. But 1991, the Hitman Thomas Hearns captured the WBA light heavyweight title. 2010, Ron McLean, the Canadian sportscaster, Hockey Night in Canada, saved a man from drowning in the Delaware River in Philadelphia. Never heard that story before. Thought it was pretty fun. And Lordi, the singer, releases her debut Royals today in 2013. 2018, Steph Curry breaks Ray Allen's record for most three-pointers in a game when he had 9 in the finals game over the Cavs, breaking Ray Allen's record in the finals. If you were born today, you share your birthday with the late, great Chuck Barris.
The Gong Show?
You're damn right.
Dun, 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 dun.
Sorry. Gene, the dancing machine. 1945, Hale Irwin was born, and Rafi turns 34 today.
Nadal's 34, huh?
34.
You know, there was a retirement scare last week about Nadal. You know why? Apparently there's a horse named Nadal that had an ankle injury, and they retired Nadal. So there was this story that was out there, Nadal retired. And so for a few hours, tennis fans around the world were like, oh, what? It's like, no, it was Nadal the horse. You know, this is something, and we don't talk much about it, but, you know, the big three in tennis are all in their 30s. If they miss an entire season or damn near most of a season, how are they going to come back?
Right. Wimbledon would be starting in a month. That's not going to happen. The French in Australia, the French is done. So the U.S. Open, we don't know what's going on with that. It's a great
point. They released some plans last week. Right now, you've got the two Opens, U.S. Open and French Open, will damn near be back-to-back in mid to late September. But how will the 30-plus guard, what kind of form will they be in when these events take place?
Seth Everett coming up in our final hour. Miller and Moulton, thanks so much for listening to Fox Sports Radio.
We are Fox Sports. Dial star 2020. Friends,
So I did something really stupid yesterday. I knew it's time to start working out again, so went for a little walk run with the daughter on her scooter, and then I decided to go into the garage and work out.
Oh, wow.
And I did like a little circuit, push-ups, sit-ups, a little bit of lifting. I've got dumbbells, and the soreness is starting to come in.
Especially designed to help patients see 20/20 at distances that are near, far, and even in between.
Yeah.
Experience the freedom of living without glasses.
Gotcha. Okay, Scully did Cubs cards for 10 innings on a Saturday. Dodgers were in Houston. He flew to Houston to do Sunday's game, and the Saturday's game went into extra innings. When he landed, he went right to the field and not the hotel. Gotcha. Thank you very much for that story. Okay. Because they went 22 innings, so he does the national game, and he must go and do,
so he did all the extra innings.
He did all the extra innings.
Look at that. Drysdale must have turned around. Ben, what are you doing here? I was in town.
We could have a brain freeze situation here. Cannot fill the void of baseball. And after making quick work of the dishes, she turns to, oh, wait. We'll get back
Thank you very much for sharing that, because I couldn't, I went and looked up the games, and I got more confused. I should have just read it as it was.
A message of hope from Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
Dan Martineau here, owner of D.R. Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida. I've been repairing and replacing roofs for 27 years. We operate with
Have you heard of Bubbly?
Yes, it is. These are all flavored waters, David. And you would have to ask your doctor if you're allowed to have artificial sweetener. It's like the LaCroix, the Bubblies, they're all those flavored waters. Basically seltzer water that has a little bit of flavor in it. I don't know if Bubbly's natural. But these are all those, it might really, you might really like it, David, because at least it bubbles like a soda. I think they taste like ass.
Okay.
Well, they're just flavored water. It's like, do you like club soda?
No.
It's like club soda with lemon in it. That's what it tastes like to me. Sorry.
No, I thought club soda was something that you put in a drink.
Yeah, it's with vodka. That's the only thing it's good for.
Kind of go through some of the hits here and then bring back up the poll question.
Yep. And I've got a couple of texts on it.
There's only one way to wake up in the morning.
How the heck are you?
Yep, that's it. Miller.
Really upset that my daughter will not read one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish on Twitch because I needed content. That's what we've come to.
And Moulton.
Well, we need to explain to her the pilot program, and we need 25 hours of programming a week. So you need to deliver your 12 minutes a day, 5 times a week, because that's an hour, honey.
Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
All guests appear on the Goldberg Noon Abraham hotline. Goldberg-law.com.
Yes! Oh, I like it. It's up to you now. It's up to you. I like it. Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Final hour of Miller and Moulton on this hump day. Thanks so much for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming foxsportsfm.com, broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels. 479-5551 is how you can chime into the show. 479-5551 via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. Poll question is out there. That Mark Miller, the David Moulton on Twitter, or millerandmoulton.com. Have the events of the last 10 days caused you to change your tune at all about Colin Kaepernick? Yes, no, or no, because I supported him the first go-around.
And right now, the poll is 10%, just shy of 11 say yes. Our Card Sharks number between David and I is 11.5%. He went over. It is hovering at 10.7% right now. The no's are at 46.4%, and those that supported him from day one are a little less than 43% right now. That's where David and I have always been, and had stated since day one when this thing began 4 years ago that we would never kneel for the national anthem. But it is largely what our country is based on, free speech. And
yeah, I mean, there were things, I didn't like the T-shirt. I didn't like the socks. Some of the stuff he said I didn't like. And you and I have been adamant about the fact that we wouldn't kneel during the anthem. But did we support his, right to and choice to? Yes, we did.
And going back even further, just quickly for those that don't know, David was at this before me. The minute it happened, David said out loud, Roger said on this show, Roger Goodell needs to bring Cap in, hear him out, and put a rule in right now to stop it. Because what prevents 40 other players from kneeling for this, that, and the other thing? David was very quick. And you can go back. In fact, I think you wrote an article in the...
I wrote a column.
In the News Press, right? You were doing news. I mean, you can go back and find the column that's within 10 days of this whole thing blowing up, where David's stance was.
I went so far as to say that Goodell's going to nip this in the bud within 10 days.
And he never did.
He's going to have his David Stern moment, and he's going to say, this was a nice stunt you pulled. Don't ever do it again. So much so, I'm changing the rules. And I thought he would either put a rule into place outlawing it, or he was going to immediately take the players off the field. Because for the longest time, the players were not on the field during the anthem.
They were only on the field post 9/11.
Correct.
In a deal done between the NFL and the U.S. military to boost the image of the U.S. military to the NFL fans.
Right.
This was a collective effort between the two. So just a couple of things need to be pointed out. And the reason we brought this up today is not because David and I were looking for a polarizing poll question to get people fired up. Joe Lockhart worked for the NFL, and he penned an op-ed on CNN.com 3 or 4 days ago, I guess maybe a little longer, May 30th, on Saturday, he printed it, of explaining to all of us what happened, why Colin Kaepernick wasn't signed. And many of us thought that he was blackballed by the league. And he said that's not the case. The league worked very hard trying to get Kaepernick signed by any team. And basically, the team said it wasn't worth the loss financially they were going to take for Colin Kaepernick. They thought they could lose up to 20% of their season tickets. And one of the things that Lockhart says in this article is that the league thought, hey, you know, they tried to get them to change their minds. They had dialogue on race relations. They raised a bunch of money to put things up there. And he says, you know, I was wrong. He's like, I thought we handled this right. And he says, I was wrong. I think the teams were wrong. But it just puts it in a little context from 4 years ago up to 2 years ago, really what was going on at the league office level. And we thought, based on what has happened in the last 10 days, that it was a relevant question.
And Joe Lockhart concluded his little CNN.com piece by saying, in light of recent events, I think the Vikings should sign Kaepernick. And I can make the football case that they should sign him, even though he hasn't played for 3 years. I think his final year in the league, he's a better backup than what they have. I mean, his TD to interception ratio was 4-1, his final year in the league. I mean, anybody who's a Dolph fan, by the way, and if you went and you had season tickets in 2016, I mean, Colin Kaepernick played an unbelievable game against the Dolphins that year in Miami. I mean, he threw for 300 plus yards. He ran for like 60 yards. He accounted for 3 or 4 touchdowns, no turnovers. I mean, I think the Dolphins beat the Niners, but Kaepernick was amazing. Now, it was his best game of the year that year. But I still contend that, you know, give him a chance, work the rust off. He'd be, if you're the Vikings and you're actually considering what it is Joe Lockhart threw out there, give him a chance. I mean, first off, you think Cousins needs to play a whole lot in the preseason? I mean, honestly, Mark, just imagine that the Vikings were the ones that signed him. He could play most of the preseason. Cousins would probably appreciate it. Well, hey, thank God you're taking the snaps.
Here's the other part of this, that when you said Minnesota and Lockhart said Minnesota, I go back to Kirk Cousins because I followed his career because he's a Spartan. And when Cousins was a senior and spoke at the Big Ten Media Days, his speech went viral. Kirk Cousins isn't a good guy. Kirk Cousins might be a great guy. He is a very solid human being. If there's a guy that could handle this and be supportive of Colin Kaepernick's cause as a backup, Cousins is a very God-fearing man. I actually think the makeup of the two of them works from personality standpoint, that Cousins wouldn't feel any pressure and be supportive of Kaepernick. I actually think it is a perfect scenario if someone were to sign him.
Well, also, you know, Cousins just re-signed an extension. He's 3 years. He's $100 million. I mean, and nobody's taking his job. I mean, not for the next couple of years. I mean, they're going as far as Kirk Cousins takes them, for better or worse. So we just brought up the Joe Lockhart piece, thought that it worked, folded nicely into our poll question. And then obviously you can chime in accordingly. 479-5551, 479-5551, Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. A few other things out there in the sports world. The events of the last 10 days. There were 3 sports stories that have something in some way, shape, or form to do with the events of the last 10 days. Don't know how many paid attention to this story. Out of Sacramento, California, longtime Kings announcer Grant Napier lost both his jobs yesterday. On Monday, former Kings center DeMarcus Cousins sent a tweet to Napier, and the two of them do not get along because when Cousins was traded from the Kings, Napier kind of lit him on fire publicly and said, you know, he's a big problem. And so Cousins Cousins threw one in there underhanded on Twitter to Napier and said, hey, so what do you that, Grant, what do you think of the Black Lives Matter? And Grant went on to say all lives matter, which, if you're not involved in the Black Lives Matter discussion, is seen as a significant insult.
I will say, David, maybe he's of a generation older that doesn't get it. If you don't get that statement is counterproductive to Black Lives Matter, then your head's firmly placed in the sand right now.
Well, Grant Napier is 60 years old.
I got you.
And it is entirely possible that, he said within 12, 18 hours, he goes, I didn't realize that was an insult, or else I wouldn't have said it. But the Sacramento Kings let go of the guy who's been calling their game since 1988. The final days of the Ronald Reagan administration. That's how long Grant Napier has been the voice of the Sacramento Kings. And he lost his afternoon drive talk show, and he lost his prominent, there's only 30 of these jobs.
Right.
And he lost his yesterday. We're both curious, will there be any fallout in Denver? Broncos head coach Vic Fangio quoted as saying yesterday, I don't see racism at all in the NFL. Now, he went on to explain that the NFL is a meritocracy. If you can play, you play. We play whoever's better. All of our jobs are on the line here. We need to win. We're going to play whoever's better. Now, my guess is there are a few black assistant coaches who are looking at Vic Fangio going, really? Are you serious? You don't see racism at all in the NFL, but it does need to be pointed out.
Yes.
Fangio's in his early 60s. He waited till he was 61 years old before he finally got the opportunity to be a head coach in the NFL. It was only a little over a year ago that Denver hired him away from Chicago. So you could maybe see why Vic views the league through the lens that he views. But needless to say, that quote is a headline grabber. I don't see racism at all in the NFL. Fangio will probably have to address that quote, my guess is, before the week is out. And there's a little bit of a brouhaha in Clemson, South Carolina.
And even this morning, David, I see people fanning the flames, if you know what I mean.
In Denver or Clemson, South Carolina?
In Clemson. Not necessarily in Clemson. National people about Clemson.
Well, listen, I understand how the national media can work sometimes. A, this is a hot button topic, and B, let's face it, there's not a lot to go after Dabo on. All right. And if you think there's some meat on the bone, and you think it's legitimate meat on the bone, that you can actually go after somebody who technically this year is the highest paid coach in the sport at $9 million a year, based on this year's salary anyway. So I could see where a few people would maybe take their shots at Dabo. But Dabo gave a presser on Monday, and it was pretty lukewarm concerning everything that's going on in our country right now. And obviously there's been a call by many, particularly the white coaches in football and basketball in this country, to speak out, say something, have a little substance here. And Dabo was not that guy on Monday. He just wasn't. And there were a few even former Clemson football players who were a little disappointed in what Dabo had to say on Monday. And an incident which had long been kind of out there, but never been made public, has become public in the last 2 days, in which a former Clemson assistant coach used the N-word at a group of Clemson players. Now, he was repeating what the Clemson players had used towards one another. But as we all know, the N-word's a pretty tricky issue, especially if you're white or if you're black. And so Danny Pearman's the head coach, and he used it back at the players to try to fire them up. And the players kind of said, yeah, coach, you can't talk to us that way. And so the players and the coach worked it out over the course of the season. But Dabo never addressed it in front of the team. And former tight end DJ Greenlee said, this was something that kind of lingered. It was out there, and it was interesting, if not a little disappointing, that Dabo never addressed it, never disciplined the assistant coach, never talked to the players about it. And so there is a little something out there with the events of the last 10 days that is festering in Clemson, South Carolina. I don't think this is going to have a lot of legs.
No.
Dabo's as close to untouchable in the sport as there is. Never mind in that part of the world where he's more untouchable than any place else. I think you're going to see, if the national media comes at Dabo, wait till you see the locals rally around.
Yeah, you'll see the wagon circle pretty quickly in Clemson, South Carolina. One other thing that's come out during the show today, David, that I don't know if you caught, Adam Schefter put out about an hour ago, that words come from the NFL, and it's not really much of a surprise, but basically the next time an NFL player sees a facility, it's going to be training camp. There's no more OTAs. There's no chance of anything. They haven't really made an announcement, but it's basically come out now that the next time an NFL player is at a facility is for training camp.
And it does need to be pointed out. I mean, let's face it, the coronavirus has been pushed to the side, if not the back burner, depending on where it is you live. But in the last couple days, an Oklahoma State linebacker showed up in Stillwater and proceeded to test positive for the coronavirus. 2 Marshall players and a staff member showed up on campus in West Virginia and immediately tested positive for the coronavirus. So it's still out there. And it's going to be a pretty big issue concerning the start of the college and pro football seasons. Now, I expect both to start on time.
David and I just differentiate on how many people are going to be in the stands. I think that's what we concluded yesterday. You and I are on a different level of what we think will be fan interaction when it comes to games. I think that the fans will be there in droves. I think there will be, in some places, full capacity. David doesn't see any way in hell that happens the first week in September. But I guess I'm a little more optimistic, and I think 100 days. Actually, 99, David. We're 99 and 83. You know, I mean,
99 87.
87. Sorry, I forgot what yesterday's number was on college. Our numbers are 99 and 87. And I do think, David, who knows if it starts on time, but damn it, we better give those numbers out every day now because we're under 100 in both days. Yesterday was a significant day. We were 100 days away from the Texans at the Chiefs. That's always been our number for David and I. When you can see them both in double digits, you know you're not that far away.
And basically, to get into double digits for college, it's usually right around Memorial Day weekend, and it's usually right around June 1st to get into double digits for the NFL. And it was made official. News started to break about 24 hours ago. Notre Dame Navy will, in fact, take place Labor Day Saturday, so a week later, and it will take place in Annapolis, the first time ever in the 94-year history of the series that Notre Dame will play at Navy. You know, there are a few people that are talking up Notre Dame for the playoff this year, that are quietly going, you know, this is a pretty good team he's got coming back. I'm curious about their schedule because to me, if there are any games that are going to get canceled, I mean, not moved, but canceled, it will be non-conference games. Well, that's all Notre Dame plays. I mean, are we sure that some of their opponents are still going to schedule them?
Well, David, I pulled up that schedule in front of me. Obviously, we knew yesterday that the game that was scheduled to be in Ireland against Navy has been moved back to Annapolis. It will be the first time ever that Navy and Notre Dame have played the game in Annapolis, which is
remarkable. 94 years.
It's remarkable and really cool. You know, I'm not big on Service Academy games. I want to see the Army-Navy game once. I do. You've changed me over in that. I have no interest in watching the football. I'd like to watch the hours leading up to it, the halftime and the end of the game. But the fact that they've never played at Navy is astonishing to me. Astonishing. So they play Navy. Then they host Arkansas. Well, we all know Arkansas is playing football. Then they host Western Michigan.
Exactly. Okay. So keep going.
Wake Forest, essentially a conference game, I know, be it, and the ACC's playing football.
They are.
Wisconsin, I think they're playing football.
Yeah, I think there's a good
By the way,
chance.
that's at Wisconsin.
Yeah.
That's a prime time game in Madison. And if you can't have fans in Madison, I mean, look it. I've been to a good deal of college stadiums. Not nearly as many as David. You ever been to Madison, David?
Yep. I went for a Gophers-Badgers game.
Can you name 10 better tailgates?
Oh, no.
Can you name 5?
Then Camp Randall?
Right. Maybe.
Right on the edge.
Right. I mean, Camp Randall is as good of a time as you're going to have on a Saturday as any. You know, it's not the Grove. There's not fine china. There's not hot women in dresses. But trust me, there are beers and brats aplenty.
Right.
Then they host
it's
Stanford.
Not Baton Rouge on a Saturday night, but it's a good time.
It's a damn good time. David, it's in the neighborhood. It's Wisconsin people party like Louisiana. I'm not saying the football. I'm saying the tailgate. It's in the area code.
It is. It's in the. It makes the top 5.
All right. Then they host Stanford.
Right.
Right. Pitt. Then they play Pitt. They'll play football. Then they play Duke. They do play Clemson, by the way, at home, prime time. Giddy up. Then Georgia Tech. Then Louisville. And then USC. So by my recollection here, David.
Now, hold on. Do they travel to USC?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
So by my count here, Western Michigan, I can't guarantee they're playing football. Can't.
No, can't guarantee, especially that time of year.
Stanford. And USC.
Do they host Stanford?
They host Stanford. They go to USC.
Because you have to figure that some of these schools, if they're going to cancel a game, it's more likely they'll cancel the road game than the home game. So, you know, the AD at Notre Dame's pretty confident. He's like, don't worry, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. We feel good about our schedule, and we think that we could replace a few opponents if need be on short notice. But that is a hell of a schedule right there, by the way. At Wisconsin, home for Clemson. Never mind the whole Stanford USC thing. Never mind any other ACC games. I mean, that schedule will fly.
Quickly, just to change, and I don't mean to do this to you, David, but I just saw this, and I know we got Seth coming up, and we might not have time to get to it. But Darren Heitner, who is a lawyer and works with, is a writer and a lawyer, just put out a tweet, says a lawsuit filed by Sadiqua Johnson versus Zion Williamson's former marketing agents has settled. I don't know if that has to do with the whole Zion case. I'll get into it during the break, but Johnson was arguing for a 5% cut for recruiting Zion, but this is not this is the agency that Zion left. But this, I think, in part of the grand scheme, is worth paying attention to because it may have implications on what's going to happen going forward with the Zion Williamson case.
Miller and Moulton. Seth Everett to talk about all sorts of stuff. It has been a while. It'll be great to catch up with Seth next. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
There are times when we do this.
It is a crazy, crazy day.
Crazy.
There are other times when we do this.
I would never be doing something to make me look stupid. I mean, on purpose.
And then there are times when we do this.
Can we all agree now? Yes!
No. It's not possible.
No.
When these times go down, you know you'll find it here on Fox Sports Radio.
Cathedral Roofing Innovations. Now, Hurricane Irma was a long time ago, but believe it or not, problems with tile roofs, they continue to occur as a result. Now, many homeowners are just now feeling the effects of the hidden damage that occurred to their tile roof. Now, whether it's new leaks, cracked, unsecured tiles, these roofs are living on borrowed time. Now, tile roofs, by nature of their design, are susceptible to lift and powerful storms like hurricanes. When this occurs, your tile underlayment can be compromised, but you would not realize it until possibly years later. Now, with Cathedral Roofing Innovations, you get a great roofing company to inspect your roof for any damage, and just because you don't have leaks doesn't mean you don't have issues. Just go to cathedralroofingnaples.com. They are the tile experts in Naples, and they will start the inspection process right away. Just go to cathedralroofingnaples.com, cathedralroofingnaples.com.
License number CCC 1331928.
Let's face it, these are stressful.
Is that my golden apple?
New routines, the constant
Look, everybody.
bad news, and trying to keep
There it
your
is.
family safe all the time.
I got it.
It's Frank.
Maddie, can I have a hug too?
During these stressful
I
times,
need a hug,
your
too.
mood is so critical, and nothing's more important.
Not
to
from
a
you,
guy's
Frank.
mood
You can beat
than
it.
Testosterone. The single greatest issue for
Thank
guys
you.
with low T is mood. And the single greatest change
Nobody likes looking at
for men
themselves
that
on
get
camera
low
more
T
than Madeline.
is a great
Do you?
improved mood.
See, there it is, my golden apple.
And most can't believe
Thank you,
how
sweetie.
much their mood improves
You are the
once
best.
they get treated. And everything improves once your mood improves. Feel the difference C4MH.com can make in your life. I've been a patient of C4MH.com for a couple of years, and recently I've lost 20 pounds because now I have the energy to work out from home. And that'll put you in a good mood, too. C4MH.com is
Thank you, Jack. I appreciate it.
convenient, affordable, and above all, safe. And with locations all up and down West Florida, there's one near you right now. Find out more. Go to C4MH.com.
Do you like me? Like Miller and Moulton on Facebook. Just search Miller and Moulton.
Would you like that? Even in my 80s, every dive is exciting and enjoyable. When I developed cataracts years ago, I couldn't see well underwater. You can have the best gear and know the best dive spots. If your eyes aren't the best, it's just not the same. And Dr. Scheibo knows that.
Knowing how much Jimbo cares about diving, it was a privilege to fix his vision.
It's great to know that we got eye doctors
David?
in our area that care just
I got
as
it.
much about
I got it
me
during
as
the
they
break.
care about being in the water.
Hi, this is Dr. Scheibel from Community Eye Center. My partner, Dr. Spatafor, and I want to remind everybody, don't
I got it.
spreader. The
There it is.
coronavirus is so tiny, 100 million
Golden apple.
fit on the head of a pin. As we run around in our trucks and
All right,
cars and
set.
take off and go fishing.
Hey, man. Hello. This the right one?
We are spreading the
Yeah,
virus.
this is fine.
The virus
Okay.
can only
You
move
sound
with
out of breath.
over 65, diabetes,
No, we left the
COPD.
phone
These
downstairs,
folks
and I
will
was
be hurt
upstairs.
severely
Oh, okay.
by this virus. Wash your hands.
How are you?
Be careful. Don't be a
I'm okay. How are you guys? You guys look good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hanging in.
Yeah, and I got the thing auto-hosting, so now I don't have to do it in the morning if I'm not awake.
Ooh, how do you do that?
I can show you later.
Show me later so I can
It-
set it up whenever you go on that I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Awesome. That is great.
And then
Thank you.
you rank channels that you want to do it. You know what I mean? So
Right.
every time you guys go on, but then if like Tony Bruno goes on, it would supersede somebody else. Like, it's pretty awesome.
Here we go.
And I did 5 totally different genres.
This is Miller and Moulton. You're live.
"28 minutes past the hour. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming this and every show on the station at foxsportsfm.com, broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels. He has his own Twitch TV channel. He is Seth Everett. You know Seth, Sports with Friends, Hall of Justice, longtime friend of the show, Seth_Everett on Twitter. How you been?
How have I been? Have all of the guests on this radio show gushed over your return?
You are our second guest, Seth. We have.
I'm just the second guest?
Yeah, I'm
Monday. Set the bar.
Monday,
David Moulton is back, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, he is, and it was a very nice tweet you sent out on Monday, Seth.
Of
It really
course,
was,
dude. It was great, and the stories that you guys tell is hilarious. But Mark is the king of tangents, as we all know, and he gets into a tangent about his hair. The guy's been in the hospital for 10 days with kidney cancer, and Mark's talking about his hair. And I said, that is one of the craziest opens I've ever heard of a radio show.
No, because I expected David has not been shaving much.
I know.
David has not been, David's hair is
I know
important
the
to him.
context. It was just you got on that tangent and you just went with it. That's what makes you a great host. But it was just so random. So if someone tuned in, David's back for the first time in 2 weeks. What are they talking about? What's the story about the cancer? And he's talking about a haircut.
Well, we had 3 hours for crying out loud, Seth. I mean, look at the man's hair. It had been a mess for 8 weeks. He looks great. I was just completely flabbergasted because, Seth, we did a little test on Sunday to make sure things looked right. And I saw him cleanly shaven in the hair a little bit. He was a little disheveled. It was nighttime. And I'm not kidding, Seth. I'm doing this test with David going, how in the hell are we going to do a show tomorrow? He's got a tired voice, and I'm going, man, maybe we should take another week. And and all of a sudden he comes out of the block swinging.
The example, and it's a segue to get, kind of this show back on the rails. I remember when Jackie Robinson Day one year, we were going around a couple of ballparks trying to get people's thoughts on the significance of Jackie Robinson. And someone played a trick on me. And someone said to me, you know who's really outspoken about this kind of thing? Yogi Berra. And Yogi Berra loves to talk about Jackie Robinson. So I said, oh, my God. And I had met Yogi Berra once, and so I said, excuse me, Mr. Berra, do you mind talking on camera? Oh, sure, son, come on. And we sat there, and I said, can you explain to me what comes to your mind when you hear Jackie Robinson? And he goes, the MF was out. I tell you, I don't care what that umpire says, he was out. I was set up. Jackie Robinson does not look black or white to him. He looks safe or out. If you remember the World Series, the play where Jackie Robinson comes in and Yogi Berra tags him, and 50 years later, that's all Yogi Berra wanted to talk about. So it's just the same thing. It's like this big, massive issue, but yet all he wanted to talk about was safe or out.
Well, that's kind of how we jumped back in. And Seth,
that's what I'm saying. That's the analogy.
All right, let me give you a little baseball. We had David Sampson on yesterday, and David's
I didn't hear it.
Told an all timer about the bus with the Marlins that I had heard before, had him retell. But David and I thought, okay, 80 games, players come back with 114 games, and then the owners come back with 50. We thought it was Armageddon, that it was just a dumb negotiating. David Sampson, who ran a team, said, no. This is negotiating 101. They put a number they didn't like. They're going to put a ridiculous number in front. What was your take on the back and forth in the last couple of days between the players and the union? Or the union and the owners, rather?
The people that I've talked to have said that there is a growing number of people in the owners' camp that do not want this season. And that's, to me, and I understand the idea of getting, and really what they'll take is 80 games, and they're trying to get the union to budge. But the reality of it is if you were to poll all the owners, especially if you did it anonymously, there's a handful of owners that would say, no, this is not right. When I talk to people in the league, there are two concerns that are not being said. Number one, the losses are exponential. And what I said to the guy at the league that I talked to, I said, it's not a question of the losses. We all know that there's going to be losses. It's what is the worth of these guys? These guys are billionaires. They can handle the losses. And the context in which that conversation came up was the jerks who released the hundreds, if not thousands, of minor league players. And I said, they can't afford to pay these guys? I said, wait, what's going on? Do they have all their money in slush funds in Sweden or Switzerland? I said, where's their money? And he said, but their losses. I said, it's not about their losses. What there is these guys are billionaires, and they are going to take a hit this year regardless. So take the real hit and pay these players what they deserve. And you say, well, wait a second, but the players have lots of money too. What do they need all this money? They're putting forth the effort. They're doing the job. And so I think the owners know that. And I think the owners know that for every game they're going to play, they have to pay these guys. That's what I've been saying since day one. And I think a bunch of the owners don't want to do it. So the conflict is not with the players. I think the conflict is with the owners.
Do you think it gets resolved?
I don't know. Right now, I would say no. But I think there's just too many things going against it. And the analogy that I made yesterday, because I stayed off social media yesterday, but I called a lot of people. And I talked to a lot of people about some of the things that are going on in our society right now. And in every conversation, it steers to baseball. And the ultimate idea is, if you look at the NBA, and this isn't my idea, somebody gave this to me. But if you look at the NBA, they have a pretty good plan. And even there are hiccups in that plan. And the NHL, who's already announced their plan, and I think the three of us all like the NHL plan. I don't love the NHL plan, but I like it, and I admire it. And they're going to have a question mark because how can David Moulton, I said this on another radio show, how can David Moulton not get a COVID-19 test, but there's 35,000 extra tests for NHL players? That doesn't make sense to me. And how the NHL is going to pull this off, I don't know. And that's with two sides that are in perfect harmony. How are you going to pull this off where it's the longest season, the farthest amount of travel? Because even though they're going to split it where East plays East and Central plays Central, you're still in your home ballparks. And the analogy that was brought to me is that's day camp. And the reason why day camps are very, very scary is you don't know where all the kids are coming from, and you don't know where all the kids are going at night. And you don't know who's exposed and who's not. And that's the difference between baseball and hockey and basketball. Hockey and basketball, they are trying to isolate and quarantine, and baseball they can't. And that's regardless of the money. So I just think there's too many hurdles and not enough time to iron them out.
Seth, our poll question yesterday was about the season of baseball. And, I asked Samson that very question about the owners. And one thing that he did point out to us that you well know is that it doesn't take a majority. It takes 8 owners to nix anything. And he doesn't think they're at 8, but he thinks they're damn close. How damaging is missing a season for this reason? That was our poll question yesterday. Would you come back to MLB? Because this is not about COVID right now. This is about a union and owners. It was one thing if they just collectively said, hey, we can't figure out a way to do it. I think everybody would be sympathetic if the league and the union came together and said, yeah, we've got the finances worked out. We just, from a health standpoint, can't figure out a way to do this, and we're going to suspend the season. But if they do it because
which is what they should have done in the beginning.
Correct. Yeah. If they were going to do something. But now we're in a labor dispute, and no one wins in a labor dispute from a fan standpoint. How much do you think that this hurts baseball going forward if they cancel the season this year because of a labor dispute?
Honestly, tell me what happens with the basketball, the hockey. Tell me that college football is okay, and tell me the NFL. Because if they do, I think that baseball skates. And here's how. I think that people will be angry, but that's the vocal minority. I think most people will be sad because it's another thing that's been taken away from their lives. But if you start to see the return, and I have said this, if I start to see NBA games or NHL games, more specifically for me, if I start to see those games, I'm not going to remember what I don't have. And if baseball comes back stronger than ever in 2021, and that's a big if, I think they'll get welcomed back with open arms. I really do. I don't think that in this time with this much disharmony and this much, anger and frustration from a pandemic that we've never lived through, I think that when sports can come back like normal, I think that it's great. And I think, for one, that in 2021, baseball can get all of its ducks in a row. What I would say is they should sit and negotiate their collective bargaining agreement and wipe out 2021 in that CBA, start a new agreement. If you have that much time off, fix your sport. Do what the NHL did when they canceled the season and they came back as a better game.
Yep.
And the NHL, and Gary Bettman swears by that, and he's absolutely right. So do that for baseball. Fix everything. Fix the minor leagues. Fix the pace of play. Fix the replay. Fix everything. And come back in April of 2021 like a new sport.
Unfortunately, we think both sides hate one another, distrust one another, and would retreat to their respective corners.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I don't think they hate each other. They used to hate each other. Bud hated Don Fehr. That I remember. Tony Clark doesn't hate anybody in there, and as a matter of fact, Manfred was very close to Michael Weiner, who's no longer with us. Tony Clark is a very good peacemaker, and Tony Clark's frustrations are not a mistrust of the league. It's Tony Clark is late to embrace the changes that have faced this sport, and the way they wanted to talk about getting rid of guaranteed contracts, and the way they wanted to put term limits on contracts, and the way they've diminished the value of the starting pitcher, all things that the three of us have talked about over the couple of years. That's where the frustration lies. I don't think it's a lack of trust. And I don't think this has ever been a situation where the league has so many issues, and I think the union just saying, fix your problems, but don't, shove us under the rug in order to fix them. I don't think there's the mistrust and the dislike like you're saying. I think that used to be, but in these 10 years, I talk to guys at the union all the time, Steve Rogers, Dave Winfield, Chris Dahl, all of these guys that I'm friendly with at the union, and I know plenty of people at the league that hate me. And the reality is, I think the union wants to have a deal, but the union wants to make sure that if their players are putting forth 100% of the effort, they get 100% of the money.
Seth, but at the end of the day, they're a canyon apart right now. I mean, this is not close. What will it take, in your estimation, for these sides to get to a financial agreement so that they can worry about the rest of the problems that they will have in bringing baseball back?
Call from the White House.
Seriously?
Yeah. I think if the White House calls, and I've said that I don't think that's responsible because of all the safety precautions that I'm concerned about, but I think that, remember, at the beginning of this, when we talked right before, David, you went into the hospital, I said this is a scenario of what's the motivation for the sport to come back? Is it economically driven or is it politically driven? And when I say politically driven, when Donald Trump, who knows Rob Manfred very well, if Donald Trump calls Rob Manfred and says, get on that field, and Manfred says, yes, Mr. President, I think that they figure it out. And the players get paid and they play 82 games or 90 games or whatever it is.
Well, and Seth, that could be very likely because leaving politics out of this, we're not going to discuss it. But the fact of the matter is that President Trump throughout this has been very adamant about getting sports being played.
You're right. Right. And but what I've heard, and again, I don't have sources like that, but this is just stuff I've heard, is that he wants sports back. He's never said what sport back.
Nope.
And if the NBA and the NHL come out and announce their plans. If you saw the positivity that the NHL received, and I know Gary Bettman knows Trump very well. And then, if Adam Silver makes his announcement today, tomorrow, or Friday, before the weekend, and now you have another sport, and then college football comes in with their plan, and everybody knows, in essence, you're going to have an overload of sports starting at the end of this month. And baseball is not a part of it. And I'm fine with that. I really am. I think sports coming back is a wonderful thing, but I really love, because, again, we still have so much unknown about COVID, I like the idea that the NBA and the NHL are sprints, not marathons. And I like the idea that they are going to come in, everything's going to be really quick, and then every 10 days or so, 2 more teams are getting eliminated and going home. And I think that's really important to acknowledge here, because the number of people that are in the NBA contingency, this quarantine that they're doing in Disney World, that's going to keep decreasing, and the same thing for the hockey. But in baseball, it's going to grow, it's going to grow, it's going to grow, and then they're talking about playing the playoffs when it's freezing cold, and everybody's talking about a second wave. And all those factors are against them, and part of it is not even baseball's fault. It's not baseball's fault that they couldn't have been in August of their season and almost done and talking about a restart where it's just their playoffs. The NBA and the NHL, everybody said, oh, so unfortunate for them because they were in the heat of their season when this COVID struck. And baseball was just in spring training. Well, it's turning out that exact fact is giving an open door to the NBA and NHL to try. And no one knows that this is going to work, but we're hopeful. And in baseball situation, there's so many mitigating factors that have nothing to do with the money. And the players are saying, if we're going to try to do social distancing, isolation, daily tests, all the things that we're going to change in our game, play with no fans, all these factors, If we're playing at 100%, pay us our money. And I say, what billionaire owner doesn't have $125 million? The reason I use that number is the highest payroll in baseball is about $250, just for the sake of the argument. If you're playing half a season, the highest payroll in the sport would be $125, because for games that are canceled, you pay them $0. And for games that they play, they get $100. And if you do all of that, the highest is $125. But most payrolls are under $100 million. What billionaire owner can't afford that?
It ultimately will come down to, do they want to? Do they want to take the loss or not? And we've seen, and granted, they've been pressured to overturn earlier decisions, but we've seen these same owners not want to pay $400 a week to their minor league players, never mind paying between $50 and $125 million to their major league players for salaries this year. It's Seth Everett, Seth_Everett's how you follow him on Twitter. Seth, of course, with Sports with Friends and Hall of Justice, the podcast.
Seth, got a text that asked a question I think is relevant because you talked a little bit about this yesterday on Twitter. Just wanted to know what Scott Boris's role in this, how much influence, if any, does he have?
Not as much as I think the union's pretty dug in their heels. I don't think Scott Boras is influencing. What I thought Scott Boras did that was masterful is he has resources, he has tons of money, he's made a fortune, and what he's saying is, if you're a client of mine, you're getting your regular salary for 2020. And I just thought, that's putting your money where your mouth is. And he's a blowhard, there's no secret about that, and I'm not his best friend. You know, I don't have many issues with him, but Scott Boras did the right thing. Very important. And it was really funny that I went on, and I did like 7 tweets, and then my buddy texted me and said, you know, everybody's doing a social media blackout. I said, oops. And I didn't take them back, but I didn't do it. I stayed off Twitter from 10:30 in the morning yesterday all the way till now. And I haven't seen Twitter. I haven't looked at Twitter, and I think it's been very, very refreshing.
You just celebrated your 250th Sports with Friends a couple of weeks ago. What do you have on the docket?
Yeah. Today we made a change. What we did was I did an interview with David Aldridge, you know, ESPN and the Athletic, about sports' role with all of the unrest going on. But then you guys know the story of George Floyd. But there was a story 6 years ago in New York about the guy Eric Garner.
Yep.
You guys know that name?
Yep.
Eric Garner was, it was basically the same story, but it happened 6 years ago. And on our Twitch channel, we spoke to Eric Garner's daughter. And it was one of the most unnerving, emotional, amazing conversations I had ever heard. And we recorded that 2 days after Mr. Floyd passed away. And so what we're going to do on the podcast is David Aldridge and Emerald Garner will be on Sports with Friends, and it should post in about a half an hour.
Right on. Seth, as always, thank you for your time, and thank you for all your kind words. And
thanks, Seth.
Just let everybody knows, you know, Seth comes on our show a lot, and no one elicits more controversial comments from our listeners than Seth, but no one was on the phone with me quicker than Seth saying, if you need someone to fill in for a week while David's out, I'm your guy. I don't need a dime. I'll do it now. And everybody needs to know that's where Seth's heart's been throughout all of this. Seth, thank you.
I appreciate it. And just, David, continued good health, and you're looking good. I want the swimsuit calendar coming out for charity. I think you should put that together. I think we're ready for it. I think that's what the public wants. You got to give the people what they want.
Well, in October, since I now have a hockey stick for a scar on my midsection, that'll be October. Emphasis on the scar for when the hockey season normally starts.
Like it. Maybe even in a Devils uniform just for you, Seth.
Hey now. Come on. I mean, I love Seth.
That was my favorite
you gotta
tweet
draw
when
the
the
line
NHL
somewhere.
announced they were coming back, and I said flat out, I said, so the Devils are not in this. I said, this plan stinks.
Thanks, Seth.
You got it, guys. Stay safe.
Seth_Everett, Sports with Friends, Hall of Justice, his 2 podcasts, and Seth has his own Twitch TV channel. Miller and Moulton, the good, the better, and the best as we wrap up this Hump Day edition right here on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Welcome to the program.
So, did you see this story with Portnoy?
He won the auction, and Goodell and the NFL said, "Screw you, we're not going to do it anyway."
But they haven't given him his money back.
Oh,
they charged his card instantly. He's not been given back $250,000.
I don't know if legally you're allowed to do that.
You think?
Friend Tim Meister, owner of the Four Meisters in Naples, on the phone. We're talking about their huge selection and great pricing on Cortex.
See, I saw it last week when he won, but they weren't going to honor it.
Which I really think they should. I think Goodell's got to stop. It's not a fight he's going to win.
No.
And it's not just the many colors of Cortex that you have. You also have other Cortex products as well.
We also have Cortex Stone product. Looks like tile, looks like stone, but it's Cortex, so you get the softness, quietness, and the easy installation to go with it. We also have Cortex wood, look of wood.
Hurting there, guy?
Yeah,
I can tell.
For Southwest Florida's humidity.
If you haven't been to the Floor Meisters, you really
Yep, same thing that happened Monday.
Yep.
Right around the same time. Key was yesterday. I moved around a lot. I didn't move around as much today.
Attention community heroes, France Eye Care. Appreciation for all that you do as you serve on the front lines, and that's why we're offering $1,500 off bilateral LASIK for first responders. All EMTs, firefighters, police officers, and critical care workers in hospitals and minor emergency clinics are eligible to receive this benefit through May 31st. Dr. Jonathan France, one of the original pioneers in the field of LASIK surgery, and his expert team of surgeons at France Eye Care want to help you experience better vision and a better life without the hassle of contacts and glasses. In addition to this amazing $1,500 off LASIK special, France Eye Care now offering free LASIK screenings through virtual consultations. Dial *** 2020 from your mobile phone to schedule a virtual consultation at a convenient time for you. Thank you, first responders.
France Eye Care. Pool need a checkup? Call the doctor. The Pool Doctor.
Do the math. Taking care of your pool is probably not a good use of your time and money. Free $50 Bonefish gift certificates when you sign up for one of our award-winning weekly service plans. We're a family company, and for over 40 years, we've been doing business right.
The prescription is the Pool Doctor for award-winning pool service, repairs, and unheard of $39 diagnostic calls. That's mypooldoctor.com or 239-574-1133. State certified CPC 057088.
Listen to Miller and Moulton at home on your Amazon Alexa. Just say, Alexa.
Receiving. Over.
Play Fox Sports FM on TuneIn. We are Fox Sports.
Great news, Southwest Florida. Below invoice employee pricing at Galliana Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram.
Yeah, Paula, I know. I did let John know. I'm guessing it'll be up sometime today. I don't know what happened.
1,500 new and certified pre-owned vehicles in stock. Luxurious Grand Cherokee Limited lease. 0 down. $269 per month. That's right. Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited. 0 down. $269 per month. Plus at Galliana Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, you can drive payment-free for 4 months, interest-free for 6 years, and worry-free up to 100,000 miles. Our parts, service, and body shop are open to serve you.
We'll have like 3 minutes when we come back.
Yep.
Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, 1/2 mile south of Daniels Parkway on US 41 in Fort Myers. Open every day, including Sunday. Call 239-481-2600. GallianaCars.com. 42 monthly sum, 10,000 miles per year, 0 to Exonic plus tax, title, doctor, dealer fee, 0 security deposit, 13 per month per $1,000 for 72 months, 0.
Tell you what, this keeps up. You and Julie can knock down some edibles and have a good, good weekend nights.
Oh, may look into that.
Hey, first off, they'd hand it to you right now.
I've been repairing and replacing roofs.
Yeah, a lot of people on Twitch wanting to get you a stand-up desk, David. Would you want one?
No.
Okay.
No, this will pass, and give it a couple weeks.
Fair enough. Hey,
Thank you.
A lot of people have asked and basically said they know that the studio is self-funded and they'd be willing to help out.
The best headlines. The best.
And that ain't no joke.
Prepare yourself and hide the women and children.
This is Mark Miller's Good, Bad, and Ugly on Fox Sports Radio.
All about walking today. All about walking. Today for the good, we go to Clarks Grove, Minnesota, and Mickey Nelson. He is turning 100 on June 27th, and he is walking 100 miles through his small town on a project he calls Walking to 100. He's been hitting the streets to get all the miles in. He's raised $42,000 so far, and all the money is going to go to the Salvation Army's feeding and emergency programs. For the better, more walking, where a high school graduate in Oklahoma shocked everybody. Hunter Whitrock is his name. He has cerebral palsy and surprised his entire class, being confined to a wheelchair for his entire life. When he received his diploma at Kingfisher High School in Oklahoma, he walked on stage and got it.
Wow.
To reach his goal, he went through extensive physical therapy, trains with 2 therapists a week to build muscle in his legs. He started by learning to stand and worked up to walking a few feet at a time, eventually mastering the 150-foot walk on the graduation stage. Wow.
Oh, my goodness.
That is just flipping amazing. And finally, the best along those same lines, a boy with cerebral palsy and autism in England, 9 years old, who cannot stand or walk on his own, has completed a marathon a half mile at a time. He has used his walker to finish the 26.2 miles, which he did in 70 days, going 164 feet a day. He has raised over $106,000 for the Sheffield Children's Hospital, which supports kids and adults with neurological conditions like his. I can't believe I completed a marathon. It's just awesome. It's such a good feeling. Well, yes, it is, young man. And that is the good, the better, and the best today on June the 3rd. Need a little positivity these days, and that's why we switched the good, the bad, and the ugly to the good, the better, and the best.
It'd be interesting to see when the time comes and we switch back.
You know, could be a poll question. Maybe we never switch back, David. Maybe this segment has to be just about positivity. That's how we leave our show, with a smile on people's face, maybe a little tear in their eye because they swelled up.
Really? We're Miller and Moulton. We're snarky. We're sarcastic. Oh, boy.
Well, the Three Kidney Show will be back tomorrow. Miller and Moulton, Fox Sports Radio. All right.
Okay, you guys have a good day.
You too, Giro. David, go lay down.